are the reason どうしても触れたくない祈りの歌で Keep it on the rap starter ただ only thing in this world 構わないんだそれでも今 Why Hurting バカみたい僕ばかりがフェイ正しくなれない I was in love with you どうしても戻れない Never be here A-N-E Yeah, Casual, right now, give me color We can make plans, I don't cheat that casual Right now, walking away, yeah Casual, right now, walking away Take me to right where I like to I need my key shit to the core high
Sex with that, is that
You
just
see no
crazy?
signs, say I'm just in time, yeah. You know that's it right, I'll let this one slide.
And I turn outside and bite. You and I say the fight. I look around and sweep the base up. Say goodbye through the window.
Taking the time on the road, she getting out of control, yeah. High up here, I'm in the zone, she out here ready to go. Oh, I break away, come back to you. You take the blame, I want you to come and say you want me to. Maybe lately, cash out, right now walking away. We can make plans, turning away. Cash out, right now walking away, yeah. Cash out, right now walking on. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to. Cash out, right now walking away. We can make plans, turn it out. Cash out, right now walking away, yeah. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to.
You are the reason どうしても触れたくない祈りの歌で Keep it on the rap starter ただ only thing in this world 構わないんだそれでも今 Why Hurting バカみたい僕ばかりがフェイ正しくなれない I was in love with you どうしても戻れない Never be here A-N-E Yeah, casual, right now, give me color We can make plans, I don't cheat that casual Right now, walking away, yeah Casual, right now, walking away Take me to right where I like to I need my key shit to the core high
Hey, do you be seeing those signs? Say I'm just in time, yeah. You know that's it right, I'll let this one slide.
And I turn outside and bite. You and I say the fight. I look around and sweep the base up. Say goodbye through the window.
Taking the time on the road, she getting out of control, yeah. High up here, I'm in the zone, she out here ready to go. Oh, I break away, come back to you. You take the blame, I want you to come and say you want me to. Maybe lately, cash out, right now walking away. We can make plans, turning away. Cash out, right now walking away, yeah. Cash out, right now walking on. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to. Cash out, right now walking away. We can make plans, turn it out. Cash out, right now walking away, yeah. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to. Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to.
Hello.
Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like
I'll give you guys the song right now.
Take me to right where you like to. I don't mind do what you like to.
Here you go. That's the song. Good morning, everyone. We will be doing some EP with the boys. Let me just start my game and figure everything out there. Good morning, everyone. All right. Wake up, it's a sign of. Doing good. How are you guys? Okay, so I've also figured out why my Fugi doesn't work, chat, and it's because apparently I have to be connected with my second PC on Discord. So I might have to make a new Discord account or something. Anyway, I'm gonna talk to the boys.
Apex. You already well expelled. Whoa, no, please. Oh, stop that. Oh no, stop that. Stop that. Stop
What?
that.
Hello, good morning.
Hello. Sorry, I'm trying to update my I'm using, and it keeps typing the letter C in the description, and so now it just now it's all full. Hello, Mister. Hello, RPR.
Hi. All right.
Hello.
How are everyone's audio levels, guys? Do let me know if anyone's too loud or too quiet.
Yeah, I'm adjusting stuff live right now. I'll just keep talking. La 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 la. Ba da ba 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 ba.
Yeah.
I love background music too.
Want me to talk?
Yeah.
I think this is good.
Everybody make some noise.
Oh, okay. That was too. Let's put this down a bit.
All right.
God.
I think we're good. I figured that. Let's go to my side at least.
Okay. Like this. I think this should be good chat. We can adjust it as we go anyway.
There would definitely be some screaming, so I would recommend 5% lower from your usual volume.
That is a quality idea, quality suggestion.
That's a good idea. Let me put you like this. Okay. I'm also gonna quickly put like a keybind for toggle mute, just so I can like thank donations as they come without being annoying.
That sounds good.
Which one?
Push to mute. We'll put it as. This one.
So yeah,
Wait,
chat.
I
I
use
figured
something
out.
I don't
I figured out why Fugi Tech doesn't work,
test it.
and I don't know how I'm gonna
You know,
fix
they
it.
released a new update
I
to
honestly want to
Apex. That
talk
is,
to
like, the
Fugi
most important button in the entire game.
and ask him what I should do.
All right.
talk
Should
to
we get
him.
into a lobby together?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
already in the game.
Oh shit. Okay.
Don't you just hate it when your cat wakes you up
Alright, I'm
like
ready.
this?
Mr. Too
Meow.
Loud, is he? Okay.
Meow.
Wow,
Meow.
that is a surprise.
Meow.
I'm normally too quiet.
Meow.
Really? Oh,
Meow.
I actually have you on. I have you,
Meow.
that explains
Meow.
it. I have
Thank
you
you,
on
Dinin.
200%.
Meow.
Yeah.
Meow.
See.
Meow. Meow.
Meow.
Meow.
Are you?
Meow.
Shit.
Meow.
Ah, there we go.
Meow.
Yes.
Meow.
RPA, you're dripped
Meow.
out.
Meow.
Oh.
Oh my god,
Vox, you are
he
not-
is dripped out. Goodness me.
Vox, your drip is lacking. My doggy.
I played this game
that?
like 6
Preparation
times.
just
but-
Thank you,
unsubscribed
Rachel,
for
6
5
months, welcome back.
months.
Actually,
How
I
many
have an
subs
Octane
for a
skin.
sell and cosplay?
Alright.
I don't
Oh,
play
yeah?
Octane, but I have a really cool Octane skin, yeah.
I have a really ugly Octane skin I can put on. Wait, this one.
You wanna see my Octane skin?
Oh my
Oh, I
god.
like that one. He's the Joker, baby.
Oh,
got
that looks sick.
I got so
It looks
many.
like,
This is my
It's a
favorite.
ninja.
Wait a minute. Yeah, I've got the...
That's cool.
Yeah, I got this one.
Hollow
But I'm not
Whoa!
very good at
just
Octane.
resubscribed
That's not bad.
for
You're in the
4
air for
months.
me.
Let's
Game is
see my
actually quite
streamer.
loud. Hold on.
Yeah, thank you, Hollow Red, for the 4 months. User, thank you for the
Drip.
host. What the fuck? Thank you so much. Alright, so anything you guys want to know or do before we enter the slaughterhouse? Nope. Okay, we're going.
Nope.
Okay, listen. I am level 500. My skill-based matchmaking is absolutely maxed out. I will do my best to
Great.
protect you guys.
All right. You and me, Mister. We
User,
are,
thank you so much for the raid.
listen,
Appreciate
Me
you.
and Mister, we
Welcome,
are the
everyone.
president. Together we form
just
the
started.
president, and it's your job to protect us from oncoming fire.
So, so if we lose one of you guys, we lost half of our president.
exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
The
yeah,
country,
exactly.
whichever fictional country we command, it will be in
Yes.
shambles. So no pressure.
Luxiem.
Wouldn't it be
Yes.
better if one's like the president and the other one is like the first maiden?
Maiden?
All right, Mister can be my first maiden. Anyway.
Wait, what? Wait, I don't get saying this? I'm just a maiden now? The fuck?
Hey, listen. I don't know how you can say you're not my maiden when I have the balls to boot up the default Gibby. Like that takes
He's menacing.
a fat dick. Oh my god, mister. Look at all the Christmas shit on you.
Yeah, I got a lot of Christmas shit.
Champion
Alright.
squad.
Wow.
They're
Why am I
looking
scared of them?
no drip. They
Yeah,
literally
I'm
have no
scared
drip.
too.
Absolutely no drip whatsoever.
Jump
Alright,
master.
I am not jump master. You're wrong.
I am also not. RPR,
Why
you're the
me?
pro here, okay? You're the pro! You gotta show us the way to go!
I don't know this place.
Okay. I guess I'll do it.
Yeah. You got
I'm
this.
thinking, like, do I want to send this as a team to see how you guys fight, or do we want to just take it easy, loot a little bit?
We can get into a little bit of combat. I don't think I'm good at this game, but I have played it like 3 times. That's a I played it a bit. I used to play a lot when it first came out.
I am shit at this game, so.
So what's your favorite weapon?
both, brother.
I want to hear your favorite weapons before we go in.
I like the R99. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
R99.
respectable.
I like
and
the.
like a shotgun.
Yeah, no, me too. Basically, I like heavy
This is
burst
so-
ones like the Prowler and Hemlock, and I also like shotguns. And I like the R301 too.
It's been a while since.
Okay. You would probably like, if you like 301, you'd probably like Flatline as well.
Yeah, I do like flatline. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
correct.
just need craft it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope your
I don't
stream
know
was
what
good,
sense
user.
to take.
Hope you beat Britain
we go.
finally.
There
And
we
go.
thank
Yeah,
you,
we're
the
doing
host.
it.
Appreciate you.
This will be
Oh.
better.
All right.
I lag
All
so
right.
bad.
Thank you. Thank you.
I normally stream Apex. I don't know why I'm a bit laggy today.
Oh, my curse is showing up on screen.
It could be this
Oh, no.
map. It could be Olympus.
Really?
Yeah, Olympus is a little bit laggier than other map.
Oh, I think it's because I have Oprah open. Shit. That's probably why.
Oprah.
Yeah, I use Oprah.
Oprah?
Oh, there we go. Look, I'm all good now. Yeah.
How old are you?
What do you mean? Oprah's good, dude. The fuck?
Nah, he's probably right. It's probably better than Google Chrome.
It is better
No
than
fucking
Google Chrome,
way.
Actually? Yeah, it is.
According to my calculations.
Heat shield.
According to my calculations, Google Chrome
Wait.
sucks.
I
Alright.
Backpack.
I'm running some good guns. We just need armors. We actually don't have armors at all, and it's pretty
There's
bad.
no one anywhere.
All right. Yes, this is fine. So,
So where do we go?
Alright, so we're gonna go. Oh, some
Oh,
good
you're all the
juice
way over
here.
there. Holy shit.
oh my.
We're gonna go to the zone. Hopefully.
Ah, yes, the zone. Yes.
Yes, the circle. That's where we
Oh
wanna
yes, we go in circle.
Yes, we want to avoid
I know
the
Osu.
storm.
I know.
be. You wanna?
I know
you wanna-
Fortnite.
I know
Right.
Fortnite. Yeah, I know Ninja.
You crank 90s.
Yeah.
Both of you?
Good thing for you guys, I am seeing plenty of movement right now.
I can't even imagine Vox cranking 90s.
I when I did my Fortnite collab with Solen and Luca and Ike, I did try.
Oh.
I wasn't very good at it, but I did try.
Click the circle.
Alright, found the first good armor.
superstar, you can't even crank 90s.
Mysta sounds
Yeah.
like an individual that cranked 90s before.
What does that mean?
You sound like someone who played Fortnite. You cranked 90s before.
What is crank 90s? What is that?
I'm pretty sure it's a building thing
pretending.
where you just like rapidly build a tower and ascend. Like it's just like 'cause you're turning 90 degrees at a time and you build like wall, floor, stairs, and you go like brr, 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 brr.
Yeah, it's like a movement like where you go like this, but you keep going upwards like this.
Oh
keep
yeah, like
building a
when they
tower.
do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thing.
basically.
Okay, I got
Crank
you.
90s.
Let's try and port them off
Yeah.
the map to give them the true Olympus experience.
Okay, BC, stop. They went a bit.
Guys, you're acting monkey, and you know, oh, Jesus.
Alright.
Monkey.
Vox is a little bit far. You should go away from him. He's a little bit
Alright.
bigger, so it
It's alright,
takes
I'm fine.
more time for him to run, you know.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Stay down there. Did we land like really far from everyone?
Yeah, because I wanted to, you know, not die the first game and actually like have time to like walk a little bit before we start fighting the whole server.
Where's my,
Should we get some fresh
I
air?
got gloves.
Gibby catches up.
How come you play Gibby, Vox? You.
I don't know. Every time I play Gibby, I seem to do better than when I go everyone else. And I also, it's also, I think there's novelty in it for me because when the game first came out, Gibby was trash and was like a meme pick, but now he's really, really good. And so I just sort of thought, you know what, that makes me happy.
He's actually the best 1v1 character in the game right now.
It's insane. And I'm just trying to understand why. I guess like he probably. Is it that he takes less damage and he's got the bubble, but also how do you use the bubble like properly?
So,
I mean, yeah.
It's you take less damage and then you also have a personal shield that will have to break to do damage to you first. So you tank like a whole like shotgun shot through that personal shield while you're bubble fighting.
True.
And then, you know, you obviously control the bubble, so you kind of like when it's a bubble fight, you kind of control where the fight goes since you're the one throwing the bubble. So you can throw it in a way that's advantageous to you and you always win.
Interesting. Well, I will try and figure out what that is and not throw it in a corridor and disrupt my allies' line of fire like I usually do.
Basically, like, if you're about to fight and you see people running at you, you could, like, throw your bubble backwards and then pull out your shotgun and just, like, hold ADS at the end of the bubble. And when they're getting close, you can just kind of, like, peek, do damage. Go back in, peek, do damage, go back in, like, jiggle peek.
Yeah. You know, I did used to play Winston and Overwatch, and playing bubble was a big part of, like, that game, so, I mean, you never know.
It's kind of similar, because Winston also has a bubble, right?
He does, yeah, and the whole thing about Winston is that he's a very big body, but he doesn't have much armor, so he, like, for a tank, he's very squishy, and when you engage with someone close range, you have to, like, sort of weave in and out of the bubble to do damage. His stuff goes, like, through the bubble, whereas, you know, enemies have to kind of deal with the bubble, and so that was, like, a big part of it, sort of ADing through the bubble, so...
It's kind of similar to Gibby, because he's also big and easy to hit, but he has his, like, own, like, mechanics that make him outplay the players if you're small with it. Let's actually go fight someone. I actually don't hear anyone. People are fighting, but I don't hear where.
I wish to taste the thrill of battle.
Oh, there it is. In front of us. Let's go.
Yeah. I need to warm up my aim. I'm sure at anything.
Can't wait to get wiped. Let's go.
Yeah, actually, I need to warm up too. I didn't touch a video game today, so excuse me for the first game, you know. Oh, bottom right here.
Okay.
On my ping. Seems like two teams.
Right.
Front of me, Loba. She's got red armor. Oh god.
Shit.
We're fine, we're fine, we're fine.
I fell down.
I'm gonna pull Phoenix. You're fine, Vox. I don't think she's pushing you. We'll be fine. She's got a red armor and an unethical weapon, so be careful. Mysta, I'm gonna follow you. You seem like you know what you're doing.
Oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Perfect, me neither.
They scan me.
Let's just keep pushing here.
Oh, okay. I'm coming back.
She's very low below me.
Okay.
I got her. Look at this rate.
Ready?
Got it.
Oh, you got him. Okay.
Oh, there's that one guy knocked here still. Is it the sulfurs? No, it isn't.
Oh no, I alt-tabbed. Oh!
Oh,
She went into the thingy.
was she knocked, Vox?
She was, yeah.
Oh, above me. I knocked one, but I'll go back. I'm really low. I actually can't go back because I'm 1 HP. They're below me on this bridge. If you drop down,
Oh shit!
we're fine, we're fine, we're fine.
The other two are above.
Yeah. Finish. Oh, no. I'm gonna pull a bandit. They're right above us. A completely different team. And it's only 2 of them. I knocked the Valkyrie. Kill this guy. We got him, we got him.
Nice, nice, nice.
Bubble if you can, Vox. You need bubble. It's fine, it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry.
Alright, Mysta. I'm gonna make a port.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Oh, he's chasing me.
Oh, fuck. Oh, shit!
I got one, I got one. I think it's only one.
No, no, what's happening? What is that? My keybinds are all over the place, dude.
All right, I'm just hanging near the portal.
My fucking keybinds are all over
We're
the
fine,
place.
we're fine, we're winning, we're winning.
Yay! All right, someone join me. Someone join me.
1 HP, Mysta. Right there.
I'm pushing.
Get him.
Got him,
Nice. Oh my god, we survived all of that.
Worked.
I don't know.
Does anyone?
One squad, yeah. You can swap here, Vox.
Oh yes, thank you.
Jesus Christ. I accidentally hit like 5 keybinds by mistake at like a crucial moment.
Yeah, next time, Vox, when you take a lot of damage, don't be afraid to pop your bubble. That's like your safety net.
I definitely forgot about it. Thank you.
Just pop it instantly. As soon as you like get your armor broken, you wanna like you're the most important player on the team because you have the bubble, so you wanna keep yourself alive, not us.
Let's go. I'm important.
All right. Now it's the last team.
Okay. How many minutes is that? Oh. Thank you.
First game, first win. Can we do it?
I mean, I'll pray. We'll see.
Yeah, Prage.
Can we do it?
I reckon we can do it. I reckon I can carry you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you did a good job for now. Oh my god.
Oh, on the left.
Oh my-
Okay, they just ratted us. What? Right here.
Hold on,
I think it's only 2.
Oh, I like. Oh my god.
You just
I'm
got ratted in a pub, chat.
There's, like,
It's only 2. It's 2v2. It's the champion squad.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Oh no, I'm stunned. No. Why? You got this, Fox. You got this.
I don't. I definitely don't.
You have it. You have it.
Fucking melee.
Hi, honey.
Dude, I keep lagging.
Holy,
Like actually.
holy
Oh
shit.
my FPS.
Did I jinx that? Is that my fault?
No. I ran into a star.
Holy shit, what happened to these guys?
I don't know what's going on.
To be fair, they were hiding in corners, and when I walked back, they just insta-killed me. It's like
They killed us so fast.
It's like I'm playing ranked.
Yeah, the one dude just ran up and murdered me. It intimidated me. We said, oh, they won. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, it was the last team.
Oh my god.
Close like everything.
Honestly, I'm a bit real with you. I did not expect that play in a public match.
Subscribed for 3 months.
They were sitting in corners like it was like I'm playing pred ranked, and I'm running to end zone, and they're sitting in corners waiting for me. But hey, we got a good fight in. We got a good warm up. Now we're gonna win the next one.
Right,
I think we're 3 months. Welcome back. Stream snipers. I don't want to call them out for
A
stream
dad joke
sniping
before I
yet,
go back
but
to studying Sag.
I don't know.
When
That
does
was
a
weird.
sandwich
It
cook?
doesn't feel like
When it
Gibby.
is bacon
Serious.
lettuce.
Gibby's a funny.
LLLLL. Have a nice stream, bossman and chat.
thank you, Dan. Thank you for 100 bits and fuck your TTS. All right. Are we warm? Are we warm now?
Very warm. Very
We're
warm.
warm. Okay. Now we're gonna demolish. This was just a little tiny little warm up. Listen, first game warm up,
There we go.
second place.
Last one.
That's good. Second place, first game.
Yeah.
You know?
It's only one more place and then we win. So
Yeah.
you know.
I mean,
Exactly.
that was my fault. I walked into that and died.
Exactamundo. Nah, it's just because you're bold.
Cause I'm bold.
Look at you. Look at the top of his head.
I was.
Look at his lips.
You sound like Bao right now. Please don't. Please don't sound like Bao. Oh my god.
Oh.
I'm done. Bao keeps calling me
Jump
bold all the
master?
time.
No, I don't think so.
Let me see. Let's land where there's like 1 or 2 teams, not 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
Game on. Game on, my doggy.
Let's go here.
We're going down the ass? Oh, okay.
No, not down the ass. Ass has really bad loot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Us? That's strange.
It's not very
It looks-
cash money.
It looks so cool, though.
Yeah.
I'd imagine
Ash
that's
normally has
cool.
good loot.
Yeah.
There's no one here actually. No one came with us.
Perhaps the loot is the ass itself.
I mean, that's poetic, isn't it? Go Go down the ass for some ass loot.
So loud.
Alright, for you, Vox, I think as a
Whoop.
Gibby main, you want to be running a shotgun no matter what. Usually,
I've got an Eva 8.
Eva, really bad. No good.
Really? Oh.
Really?
No good.
Boosted lit.
You want a
Boosted
Mastiff
loader.
on Gibby. Mastiff
Don't
or
Mastiff.
PK?
Yeah, I like the Peacekeeper.
PR caps this nut. L
And I
underscore.
got
L underscore.
Rampage.
Friendly out.
Looking for
Slap.
a flatline.
L
Fuck out of you.
L underscore. L
So yeah, you want to run a...
L underscore. L
Like a-
underscore.
My
L
teammate is a Gibby main. He
You-
usually runs
Hurrah.
a Mastiff and like a 301 or a flatline or something like
That sounds good.
does a lot of damage. And then, Mysta, your
Right.
Octane main?
I don't know about main, but I've been playing them a lot.
For you, I would recommend running, since you can stim into fights and like pad into
Should I
fights,
get a
right?
shotgun?
Shotgun is good, but like having a spray weapon is really good for you.
I have an R99.
Yeah, R9 is really good. What? Here, I'll give you some attachments.
R99 and a Havoc.
Take my
I've seen
attachment.
like 3 rampages. Where are the flatlines?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Let's go fight Turbine team.
Yep, let's go.
Here we go.
Okay.
Oh shit, I almost jumped down there.
You guys need batteries? I got 4.
I have 2.
I've got 2.
Okay.
Wait.
So if you guys don't know,
Oh
like,
no, I've got no shield batteries. I've got 4 cells.
oh, okay, here, take this and take this.
Either that.
So you wanna always run at least maximum of 12 cells. You don't wanna run more than 12 cells because it's a lot of inventory space. And then batteries 2 to 4. Like 4 is really good. If you wanna carry more batteries, like let's say you wanna carry 6 batteries, you drop 4 cells. Because it's more
that
worth.
makes sense.
Oh, in front of us, literally in front of us. In 100. He's dead.
Oh
Fuck.
shit. Holy.
Just a armor sculpting. And then you want to run 2 medkits and 4 syringes only, never more than that.
Okay, makes sense.
Where's the rest of them?
I don't know. He was definitely not alone though. Turbine maybe?
Coming.
Yeah, I don't know.
Shit.
I think he kind of like walked away from his team and we just caught him in a bad time and murdered him. Here,
was
blue
odd.
bolt. I mean, a lot of people when they play pubs, they kind of like split off and play solo.
Mm.
A lot of heavy.
Hemlock.
No.
I guess.
Okay, there's fighting over here. We can go to that. Oh, they're fighting like fight night over here.
Coming,
This-
coming.
This place is already scary. Because there's gonna
Just
be a
the
lot
way
of
I like
teams. Oh yeah, I already hear like 3 teams here.
Is it the blue ship? Is that what they are? Or is it inside here?
What do you mean? It's
Like,
right
is
here.
it where we're heading right now?
Yeah, like literally right in front of me. I'm shooting at a guy with blue armor and about to.
Yeah, he's cracked.
Oh, there's also like a blowdown here. White armor, cracked. Aim for this blowdown, he's cracked.
Yeah, he's down, down, down.
Nice. One closer to you right here. I got him. One team is fully dead, but that Valkyrie is still alive. Oh, behind
Oh
box.
fuck! I couldn't even get my bubble out.
I cracked the raid that knocked box.
I don't see them.
Yeah, they're running. We can
Oh.
probably res.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
they're
just
at the
moving
door
the
right
battery.
now.
Yeah. Come a little bit back, box.
Oh, behind, behind.
Behind us. We should kill this guy.
He's cracked.
Got him, got him, got him.
Behind,
I'm,
behind,
I'm
behind.
reloading. Come behind me.
Oh, there's someone
okay.
coming in. In front of me. It's about.
Shit, why is there so many? Cracked. Ah! Mister!
Holy shit, she's cracked again.
Yeah, I'm gonna put battery here again. Someone grappling on me? A whole new
I'm
team?
chilling. It's fine.
Mister, stay alive.
Ow.
All you gotta do.
dramatic.
Revive you, Vox?
Yes, please. If you would like.
What is happening?
Drone detected. Oh shit.
What is... Missed, I'm gonna die.
No!
Okay, there was way too many people there.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
I
Oh,
kept
goodness
running
me.
away and like
Terrible.
hiding, and I kept having teams run into me while I'm hiding.
Jesus.
Oh my god. Gmo, thank you for the pound.
Oh,
Welcome.
I didn't do much there.
Nice try, nice try. It's a nice try.
Alright, alright. Let's try this again.
It's warm up.
This
It's
is the
warm
game.
up. We're just
Can I
warming up.
lower any more settings? What the fuck is going on?
Are you lagging really bad?
My FPS just keeps dropping like randomly.
What are
And
your
it's very...
settings
don't-
at?
Everything's on low. It looks like.
Is your VSync turned off?
Yeah, it's off.
Anti-aliasing, all of that is off. Low, disabled.
Oh. I can turn anti-aliasing down, I think.
Yeah, you should do that on zero. New map
It's
now.
not good enough? No, my computer is good enough. I've streamed this game loads of times. It's just right now it's being weird.
Yeah, you weren't lagging last time when I watched you play. So.
Yeah, no. I've never lagged while streaming this except for the first ever time. And that's because I
You-
didn't put any like FPS cap.
You have something running in your background, maybe?
I don't think so. I had Oprah at first, but now there's nothing.
So good. You pronounce it Oprah. I just think you've got some sort of a process on your computer that keeps Oprah the person alive.
It could be
Let me
just
see.
map, you know?
Maybe. I'm just gonna close every single thing I have that I don't need.
I can't believe you use Opera. I'm just...
Why is there like 8 OBSs open?
Okay, that could be a problem. Maybe you opened like OBS like multiple times and you forgot to close the old ones.
Or is it just different if I end OBS, will it end will it end the stream?
Yeah, probably will end the stream. Don't do
Okay,
that.
never mind then.
He's got like 8 streams running at the same time. Why am I lagging?
I don't have 8 OBS things open, but on Task Manager it says OBS like 8 times.
Yeah, 8 instances.
Yeah, I have that too. I think each one of them is a different thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just don't end OBS. Okay,
I
I'm playing
wonder, no,
King's
chat,
Canyon
I'm
now.
pretty sure that's supposed to happen. It's like Steam. Like Steam has like 8 things I can do.
Yeah, it has, cause like it has one for your voice and for your this, for your that, like
Yeah.
there's many processes.
6 consoles.
6.
you fucking wired, dude.
Oh, look how cool you are. Wow, so fucking cool, dude.
I have like another one. Here, I'll show you another cool one. Look,
Oh, get away from me.
Oh, that
look at
is
this
cool.
one. Looks.
Absolute weirdo.
Ooh,
See,
Absolute
On this
weirdo.
map, this ring right here always spawns like a good loot. You know, like purple armor, purple bag.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You. Oops.
Gotta be faster than that next time.
Fucking man. You can suck my tiny toes.
You got tiny toes.
No. Baby toes. I have very big shoes. And my feet keep growing. I'm like a size 13 in the UK now.
Oh my
I don't
god,
know
me
what
too. What the
that
fuck?
is.
Oh,
Why do we
really?
both have huge feet.
I hate it. I hate it.
The fucking.
brothers?
I like the planks of wood I got on my legs.
You like having big feet?
I like having the fucking sideshow bob feet. Yeah.
I look like a clown.
Nah.
What is that in like EU size? I don't know what UK size is.
I think it's 1 lower. Oh wait, no, use numbers, right?
Yeah, we like 40 something usually. Like,
Oh, I have no idea. Maybe chat.
here, take this,
Chat will
Vox.
Whoa! Thank you very much.
Fully juiced. 301.
Based. Thank you.
I want to get a car.
Take all the attachments. There's a lime egg right here. I don't know if you have one.
Cool. Nice. All right.
There's a mastiff here as well. If you don't know.
Oh, let's go.
Ah, bless you.
Good one, dude.
Wait, 13 is 46 or 47. Oh, I see. I think I'm like 44.
Thank you.
44 and a half or something like that.
Ooh. Niji feet. Yeah.
We were talking about Niji feet on my stream yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's
I think
Niji
it's
feet?
yeah. I don't know. I think it's because I flipped Folger's body upside down so that we were just staring at his amogus feet.
That's
Does he have massive feet, Polgar?
I don't know actually. I just know that he's got a really nice pair of Yeezys, and so I just kind of
Does he?
flipped him upside down. Yeah.
Lamb gave him Yeezys? Holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I show Bob feet gang. Thanks, man.
I didn't get any Yeezys. Did you get Yeezys?
I didn't get any Yeezys. I got the Gucci slides actually.
I'm gonna talk to mom. And complain. Alright, let's go this way.
Meow.
Aye.
Oh. You guys can do that. I'll go the slow way.
There's a gold armor up here. No one looted this.
I've still got the basic ass.
There's a purple armor as well. We're juicing.
Yo.
Meow.
I'm gonna call dibs on the gold armor because I'm fat.
Oh, the gold armor is actually a gold helmet. Never mind.
Ah, shit.
You can have it though.
Nah, it's okay.
What does the helmets do? Does it
They
stop
like
like a headshot multiplier or what?
well, obviously it's like damage reduction to the head, but it's also like the gold one, for instance, reduces the cooldowns of your abilities. So it's like really good to put in like GB.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
You get
I
some.
don't
Well,
think
in that case, I will take it.
And like every gold item in this game has a special use to it. Like the magazines, for instance, they reload automatically. Like let's say you shoot out your entire mag and then you take out your shotgun. While you're shooting with your shotgun, your gun will be reloading itself.
Ah.
And then
Interesting.
gold armor like just lets you like use one cell for like 2 slots of shield, so you just save
Oh, what the
meds.
fuck?
Gold bag just reses you with more health, and then gold knockdown just lets you self-res yourself when you go down.
This is like the only map I've actually played on properly. Feels very nostalgic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
they
the map
changed this
game.
map a lot.
Just realized my brain's slow.
You're still on Olympus?
Nah.
Holy fuck, that scared me.
Oh, yeah, it scared me too. I went up to go punch it and then just blew up in my face. Holy shit.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, I just shoot everything.
I really need a backpack.
A backpack? There's a battery.
Backpack.
Oh, there's one up here. Oh, nice.
I got 4 batteries if you guys need.
Oh, can I have one?
I've just got
have
one.
none.
If you could like give me just one battery, that'd be really
Here,
nice.
1 each.
Bless you.
Yay.
Bless you.
Oh,
Oh,
in front of us
look at
actually, right here.
Let's go. Combat.
Let's go.
Combat.
Cross the water as well.
Action is coming.
Let's go.
I'm ready, chat. Oh, I see them jumping.
We're gonna grab their high ground right now and then dominate them right here.
I have
He's got gold armor. That Pathfinder is 1 HP. Can you shoot him?
Go.
Nice.
Oh my god. Oh god!
He's one.
I did 9 damage with my shotgun shot.
Yeah, welcome to it.
Get up, motherfucker!
I'm up! I'm up!
There's one more left. He's on the right. Careful, Wolf. There's a lot of people
There's more
actually.
than one.
Yeah, it's a whole nother team that just came.
Holy fuck.
Valkyrie's low. I got her.
Still alive.
Oh, behind us as well.
Oh
What
my god, it
fuck?
doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. I'm getting out of here.
No! Oh god.
Hey, stream him.
Pizza.
My dad did it. He's got no sense of fucking volume, dude. In his fucking lungs, dude.
That's so funny. I was really confused. I thought that was you.
I thought that was you, Fox.
Yeah.
I thought it was you.
It was me? No,
I
I thought
thought
that
you
was...
just shouted pizza while you're like getting shot or something.
My dad has
Pizza.
like 0 sense of fucking volume in his voice. He's the loudest motherfucker on the planet.
I thought that was RPR, so from my perspective, I was like crawling around like with lead in my blood, just sort of dying, and then I see RPR teleport away and go, pizza! And I was like...
It's okay, I'll raise you guys here. I think. I might raise you guys here.
Alright, while you're doing that, I'm going
I got one of them.
Getting the gamer gloves.
Wait, someone died. What? I have no big heals. How am I gonna do this? I have to get Vox.
I want my last breath.
Oh, why are you guys here? What was that? No! No!
No.
Oh, I filled my tab straight. No, dude. He threw the horizon open, bounced off the jump pad.
Alright, hello.
Hello, hello,
Yeah.
hello.
I died. I couldn't say. Guys, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We shouldn't have died. Okay. Just putting on my glove. Ooh. Okay. I'm going to quickly like restart Apex. It'll take like 1 second.
Okie
Yeah.
dokie.
Just in
Already.
case.
I
'Cause I
will.
feel like it's being a bit of a bitch. Alright.
It could be just
Steam.
yeah, Apex
Right.
just like lags out sometimes. No cap.
Apex be like. I got my glove on. Oh, it's been a while since I used this. Ooh. Oh man. Feels odd.
IPN sniping now? What? Is IPN sniping us?
Hear that, chat?
They have to put IPN into an early grave.
At least I'm good at FNAF.
We just started, Vox. Relax.
Nah, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not molding yet. Or am I?
We just started. It's only the beginning. The
It is
mold will
only
come.
the beginning.
Alright.
Nah.
I'm coming. I'm coming in. Coming in, boys. Oh, I'm ready. Oh, I'm
Let's
ready.
go.
Are you fucking ready to play? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I was kidding. I'm good at FNAF and Apex, and we're gonna win. Let's go.
Oh, mama.
We're gonna win a game.
Oh, mama.
I blamed the last game literally on my dad for screaming into my ears while I'm trying to play video games. Like, how dare he?
But it's a pizza. It's important.
Yeah, but I'm not even hungry.
Ow. I want pizza. Pizza deeper.
What kind of pizza do you like, mister?
I like 4 cheese.
Oh, quattro formaggio? Yeah, I like that too.
What?
It's called quattro formaggio. Quattro means 4, formaggio means cheese in Italian.
He's got you there. He's got you there.
Yeah.
Why
Quattro
Italian?
formaggio.
Pizza comes from Italy, mister.
I love a bit of quattro
No,
formaggio.
pizza comes from the supermarket.
Pizza comes from your... I'm not gonna have this argument again.
I'd like to imagine that after he said that, like fate itself just made Mr. fall off his chair,
Oh,
and that's
shit.
what that bang was.
We're going here, I
Well,
guess.
I guess we're going here.
All right, let's go.
Pizza comes from the supermarket. Well, it originates from Italy, mister. We're gonna land here instead of going for the teleporter,
okay,
because
okay.
there's gonna be 7 teams taking the teleporter.
Okay, okay.
Why are these guys following us?
God, there's so many people.
Let's kill this guy, mister. Kill him. Punch him.
Fuck you, bitch!
Oh, shit.
He ran away.
Oh my god, this feels really hard, actually.
Vox, are you farming? Are you winning?
No, I'm getting attacked by a race. Oh, hold on.
I got you.
Of all things, I picked up a P2020. Not ideal.
Fine. He's the one. I can't kill him. Help! Assistance!
Yay! Someone behind you.
Why is this guy just coming here and farting? Mister, there's like 5 million people!
Yeah!
I'm mid
Oh,
killing.
what the fuck?
I'm going.
Alright,
I'm
yeah,
going.
you know what? Glover's about it. Oh, am I lagging worse?
They're ignoring us. They're ignoring us. They're cocky. Let's go.
Like,
No, I'm not going.
ignoring us. They're not. Oh, no, please.
it's a with or without the box. It depends.
Kami, stop stream sniping, Kami. I will rain down thunder on you. You land on us one more time and start throwing caustic barrels on us. I will do things that I can't say right now because I get
Shut
banned
up,
from Twitch.
bold.
My mod is
I mean,
stream
I
sniping
mean
us.
business.
You're so bold right now.
I'm the only streamer in this world that has moderators stream snipe him during a collab. And it's all thanks to Selen.
So mold, so bold. Omega lol.
All thanks to Selen. I blame Selen.
Now it's my turn to pick them. Yeah.
What, you eat the box, Mysta, of the pizza? You eat the whole box?
No, but have you ever eaten like a burger and then you eat the wrapper?
Accidentally, yeah, maybe.
Get a peel.
Maybe
Yeah.
accidentally, not on purpose.
Yeah. Or like when a hot dog is wrapped in tissue, you like eat the tissue as you go. Because I've done that a few times.
And you liked it?
It's not that I like to, it's that like if I accidentally do it, then there's no point in spitting it out because it doesn't kill you.
Well, it's paper. I think you can just digest
Yeah, exactly. So it's not really a problem.
I'm confused and sort of scared. Alright, it's my turn to be Jump Master. Where we dropping, boys?
Moisty Maya.
Moisty Maya.
Tomato Town, let's go.
This looks like a Moisty Maya.
Can we go Tomato Town next time?
Just
Okay,
dropped
yeah,
up
sure.
Tomato Town. I mean, we still have a chance to turn. Where's Tomato Town?
What does it
I
look
don't
like a
know.
tomato on this map?
That thing.
Those
This?
big red things.
Oh, it's
Oh,
good.
that-
It's Tomato.
My friend's just
Just
dropped
dropped
down.
out Tomato Town.
Mysta doesn't spit his swallows. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got out of that story.
Yeah, I can confirm that.
Bad dude landed behind me apparently.
Is that out of experience, Fox? Or,
Yeah, well, you never know. Fuck!
right. Holy shit!
I
It's
landed
Ace!
and was erased from
Oh,
existence
fuck!
in about 2 seconds flat. Fuck, I got bubble down.
Oh shit!
What is this guy doing? Dying. Two dying.
Climb up, he's broke.
So am I. It's not looking good. Right above us here, Mysta.
Okay,
Fine, we can win this, Mysta. We're the best.
Oh wait. Nice.
Oh my god. What was that late landing? There's blue armor right here, Vox.
All game.
Ew.
It's okay, Vox. You died because you're the biggest person in the team, and they always bully the big guys.
I am a big fat fuck and easy to shoot, so I am not.
You are
bullying
not
myself.
fat. You're just fluffy.
Good. Yeah.
Bro, look at me. Bro, look at me. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I enjoy being fat.
Yeah.
I can sustain more damage. I got the bubble.
You know they say
Lots
the
of-
fattest people are the happiest.
Exactly.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And
So they can-
remember, the saddest people smile the widest, and the funniest people shit the loudest.
What?
Yeah. Why do you think I get so many noise complaints? Funny.
I feel like that in itself was so unfunny that your shits just became about like 20 decibels quieter. They call him SBD. He can go decimate your plumbing and no one will ever know.
Is that an innuendo? Estimate your plumbing.
It could be. I like when I say plumbing, I always mean just literal pipes. Like that's when you.
Oh shit!
I missed
hello.
out on an enemy.
Oh fuck me in the ass!
Jesus Christ! All right, there I go. Somebody wants to-
What the fuck?
What is happening? Who am I fighting? A phantom?
Some kind of a spectre?
Oh god, there's a whole new 3-man coming.
What the actual fuck just happened? Coming.
I need to get Vox up, and I need to survive, and it's not looking good. We have like 2 teams on us here.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
In my building. I got that guy, Mysta. Finish him.
It's alright, guys. Support you from the grave.
I got him.
Oh, behind you, Mysta, Bangalore.
Yeah, he's cracked, he's cracked.
I can't hit him. Sorry, I'm bad.
Nice. Good. I think there's another team coming out, yeah. Wait.
There's another team coming.
Yeah, they're coming in now. Or Watson.
Not the crypto. Keep holding your shield and looking
Yeah,
at that door.
holding.
They're getting knocked all around us. What is happening? I didn't sign up for this.
Coming in now.
No, it's impossible. Why there's so
You were
many?
close to clutching that out. That was
Good
cool.
try.
I was really invested.
There was so many. What did we do to them?
That was a good try.
What would we have done without my
Activate
steady
Stinger 6 months.
damage?
Welcome back.
What would we have done, really?
It's
Well,
actually
you got
it's not even your
jumped on
fault.
twice, like out of nowhere. So.
Yeah, true.
You were just chatting, dude, and then they interrupted our chat.
I was just vibing. I was living my best life, and they came and they shot me in the back of their head.
Yeah,
It's
you were
ridiculous.
just chatting in a pool with a
Nobody's
bikini
heard from
on.
him.
Yeah. One of my
Sounds
favorite
fortunate.
pastimes, really. Yeah, I think it suits me.
I think you look good in a bikini.
Thank you. You too.
I think we need to see a fan art of that.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I want to see that too.
Two guys sitting in a hot tub, 5 feet apart because they're not gay. Mysta and Vox.
A little oil. You know that video? I forgot what it says, but
He's like, no, it's
fat
it's like
cocks.
by the water cooler. He's like, word around the offices, you've got a fat
you
cock.
got a fat cock. I have one too. How about you rub our fat cocks together sometime?
No, I think that genuinely was mine and Mister's first interaction when we both had the opportunity to talk to each other. We were just like, word around Ninisanni is you've got a fat cock.
Is that
I love the way he says it.
Which
Why
series
don't we
is
get
that from?
together sometime? I think it's an infomercial.
Yeah, I think it's like a to
Yeah, I'm
stop
pretty
like sexual harassment in a workworkplace environment. But it's
Oh.
like so like it's so
Not a good way to
stupid.
start the commercial.
Yeah. The guy walks
It's
in
like
why
word
don't we
around
get
the
together
and
and got a fat
rub our
cock?
fat cocks together sometime.
I'm pretty sure someone made it in a Vine, right? Eventually.
Two fat cocks. I think so. Yeah, it's been spread around a lot.
We have a
So
team with
good.
us. Right here on the left.
I have never died in Apex, not a single time.
Same. No cap.
Alright, someone just literally landed on my head. What's that about?
Oh no, it's that fucking caustic again.
Oh no.
Fuck.
Kami, what is your...
He farted on me and punched me to death. God damn it.
I know... This guy's low, Mysta. Last guy above you? You better
I
than...
really don't like Gibby's realistic... Oh, fuck off. I really don't like Gibby's realistic coughing sounds. They make me so sad.
Kami, stop stream sniping me. I will get
If
you
only I
back
could
in the
aim.
game.
If
Get
only I
Mysta.
could aim. If only I could aim. No.
I can't believe I landed and got locked in the fart corridor and was immediately killed.
1 second, I gotta talk to my stream real quick.
Only.
And my
Kami,
first death in
stream
Apex.
snipe one more fucking time. I will get your account
what it's
banned
like
from
to
Apex.
lose.
I don't give a fuck that you're in the mod. Stop fucking stream sniping. It's fucking cringe and you're killing people who are new to the fucking game. I will get you fucking banned. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you're a mod or not. I will fucking get you banned. I don't give a fuck. You're not being funny.
ass.
It's not being productive to the stream. You're fucking up our games.
later, don't
He's
we?
literally level 14. Stop being an idiot.
Don't have to say it on stream though.
No, we say it on stream enough. They know.
Alright, I'm back.
They know.
They
Yeah,
have
they know.
critical information.
They know. Whatever, dude.
You don't have to play Gib if you don't want to, you know? You can play anything you want.
I like Gibby. He's funny.
You like his big, massive.
Like having a fat ass?
Yeah.
I was gonna say
he's a
big.
he's a big boy. He's a big boy.
Big, fat, juicy legs.
Dumpy.
I'm the job master.
Mysta, what were you thinking? Alright,
Right there.
I'll do whatever you want. Alright, just a few guys.
Oh wow, just a few.
I tabbed out for a sec.
Maybe
and
did.
right as I did, like the audio cut out. So
Yeah.
Octane just said no, and then
I'll leave
like
your
a
voice
perfectly cut
line.
scream. That was really bad.
If you press 5, I think you can voice line. Yeah, 5.
5?
Well, for me it's 5. I don't know if it's 5 for you. I might have changed that.
For some reason it's like, I think it's the server that's laggy for me.
No, this server does feel laggy.
Oh, okay. This is
That
very
makes sense.
odd.
That makes sense. I normally win.
Yeah, we're losing
be
to
lag.
lag, right? We never.
It must be
actually
lag. Yeah, it
lose a
must be lag.
gunfight.
Jesus Christ! Chat, you see? Oh my God!
Now, let me see.
I'm rubber banding all over
Oh,
the
you're
place
slow
right now.
motion. Yeah, this is a bad server for you. Maybe we should have you
Holy
host
Fuck.
instead of me. That might help.
I don't know.
Ooh, the wingman here.
Oh my.
What?
This is great.
Okay, here you can have this 301.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another 301.
Dual wielding, my favorite.
Holy shit.
I can see it happening. It's just bup.
Can you?
Look
Yeah,
at it.
yeah.
Look, if we run at the same time, I'm actually faster than you.
Okay, wait, can we try?
Yeah.
All right. Race down the corridor, okay? Down the ramp.
On here?
Then
Okay,
the ramp,
It's not
okay.
the same place. All right. Ready, set. On your marks. Let's go.
Oh shit, we're going. Well, yeah, look, I'm beating him. He started first and I beat him.
Oh my
Still
god.
gained. This is so stupid. Whatever.
Yeah, thank you very much, ABC. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
man, this is-
just a bad server for you.
It's okay.
It happens
Sad.
all the time in this game. No
The
cap.
server can't stop me from getting W's.
No, but the enemy will.
Yeah.
What a mastiff. Let's go.
Like they've been doing for the past 4 games. Let's go balloon to them.
Whoa! Wait, what the fuck? What you mean by that?
Nothing, we just died. That's all.
What do you mean by that?
Oh my god! Even if I fucking stim, it's so awkward. Fuck.
Yeah, we could, I mean, you could try restarting your game, but honestly, just better to die and go next if it's lagging that much.
No, it's okay. I'm sure. If I can get 1 kill like this, I'll consider this a win.
You know,
Give it our
that thing
best.
happens in ranked all the time.
I'll do
Oh,
my best.
that's
I'll fight for
hard.
my friends.
Yeah.
For your
It
friends, the power of friendship.
That actually happens when people from different regions try to connect to the same server, and then it actually confuses the server and it starts lagging for some people. So what's probably
'Cause we
happening
shouldn't
is,
have connection issues, you know, like.
yeah, it's probably happening. People are stream sniping us and trying to get in our server, and are messing up the networking. Right here, a
You just-
meatball. A meatball right here.
Did I overtake you on the thing?
Overtook
got some
me,
meatballs
and I
below me.
got in there.
Horizon's 1 HP. I got her,
Oh, whoops.
and I finished her. There's a running Gibby here. He's the best. He's the best. He's the best. That Gibby's the best.
He's cracked. Oh shit, he is the best. Oh no. You got his Vox, you're better!
Got him. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll rest. Oh my god, that guy turned around and mopped both of us.
Holy fuck my ass.
All right, working.
Alright, there's a lot of people here. So
Oh
we need
my
to be careful. They're also resin right there. Are you still lagging like crazy?
It's okay. It's okay. This is doable.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Holy fuck. Very doable. Yes. Oh.
I'm trying to see. So there is right here, and then there's a team I think on the house next to them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Ooh, care package being delivered.
Wait, what is this portal in front of us? What is this portal? What is this portal? That all things crap. What?
All right, took me back around.
Oh,
Fair enough.
okay. That scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah, same.
Scared me too. I saw like a red enemy ping in the distance, and I was like, is that where I'm going?
Yeah.
Oh god.
In here, bottom floor. He's climbing up actually. Oh, there's like 6 people here at least.
Yeah.
We should get the roof right now. Okay, I'm on the roof.
Oh god. Oh god, I can't climb. I can't climb.
One team's dead, and there's one knock. Happen low. Oh no.
Oh, I think my lag is actually so.
Oh no. Papa is 1 HP behind here. Here. Mysta behind you. Oh no.
Wrong guy.
My time to shine.
Vox. Papa is 50 health.
Oh!
Oh.
My head. Yeah, the.
Got this, Vox. Oh! Dude, you were farming though.
I was. Yeah.
That's my bad.
Probably you two fuckers weren't slowing me down. No, never mind.
That's my bad.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know the rate was in my ass. They were 6 months.
Actually been on your ass for like
Yeah,
the
mention.
entire game and just then chose to pop out.
Yeah, she was literally there the entire game, and then I drop on the Pathfinder and he just appeared.
The rates really be like that. It's terrifying. Terrifying shit.
Yeah, they're small. They get into tiny places. You were popping with a Mastiff though.
Yeah, I enjoy the Mastiff.
You feeling that?
Yeah.
It's that personal shield. Something about that shield. When you pop the Mastiff, it just feels so good. Alright, we'll win this one.
Can't we
for
do
sure.
that blah 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 after?
Oh yeah, I have voice lines off by the way. They're so annoying.
Really?
Yeah, I had them on for a long while, but then I turned them off because I feel like I couldn't hear the game.
No, that makes sense.
Chad, I'm not gonna do a selling cosplay. Stop asking.
Gibraltar's the jump master.
Alright,
Alright.
what are we doing? Vox, you're the man.
Yeah, hard
Alright,
the
well.
card.
Here we go. Okay, genuinely, I knocked my mouse against the side of my keyboard and it clicked, so let's
Okay,
go.
so we're going here.
Alright, Tomato Town is this way.
Tomato Town, okay.
Let's go Tomato Town.
Okay.
Tomato Town.
Number 1 victory royale. The airport never about to get down.
Get down.
Oh, fucking hell.
Mysta, you should do a cover of that
Oh,
song.
yeah, that song. Maybe. Could. Think it would be popular?
Yeah, that would bang. Buy it?
Yeah, if I sold it.
Yeah,
I'd get the vinyl instantly.
Oh, really?
The vinyl. You would go vinyl?
Oh wait, now I'm rubber banding. Oh my goodness.
Oh, no. You gave it to him, Mysta.
Yeah, it's your turn. I'm good now. No
Okay.
more for me.
Okay, maybe we'll change server after this.
All right, now I really feel like Gibby. Now I really feel like I'm Gibby's cannon speed.
We'll change servers after this, and then I should do a good server. Yeah, these little vaults that I keep opening always have like juicy loot.
I'll go charge, yeah.
It's like really good attachments,
shit,
scopes.
Oh, I've got the Havoc as well.
Yeah, I guess this is good.
There's people fighting down here.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, this is good. This is good.
Where should we go?
I think they're fighting right here below us. Vox is literally in a shopping center right now. He's shopping order. This is good. I want this.
It's like, yes, I want this. Ooh, yes, I think I will.
Alright.
Oh, actually, I can take that.
They were.
Whoa, whoa, behind!
Oh shit! That's where they were.
I don't see them though.
He's by that rock. You see?
Oh. Did we push them?
I'm trying. There's a guy to the right. Is that a mirage? This has
shit.
blue armor.
Oh! Cracked one.
Nice. Oh, this guy to the left. Cracked another one. I gotta go back. I'm very low.
Oh shit! I'm coming back.
my God.
Oh no, I'm dead.
Holy fuck!
Oh, I don't have bubble.
You got this. You got this, Rox.
Oh shit!
Uh oh.
I was panic. Oh, there was 4 people. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, I'm gonna switch servers now so you don't like.
Okay.
Because we 0. Oh no.
Because we can't be having
Oh,
that.
how do you get more and more bold? Jesus.
Oh no.
Alright, this server should be actually
No
good for you.
work.
If
No
this one lags
work.
for you guys, I don't know what to do. Then the game just doesn't like us.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey,
We can
level
blame
15.
Apex.
Just a casual Apex experience.
Alright, let me do gacha. Let me see what I get. What am I gonna get? Oh, purple. Purple.
I'm inviting you, Mister. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
You got a purple. What you got?
I got crafting materials.
Ups. I didn't mean to do
And I
that.
got a skin for Mad Maggie.
You got purple crafting materials?
Yeah, bruh.
Is that rare?
Well, I mean, usually like it's kind of hard to get because the way it works is like when you open loot boxes, it gives you all the skins like gray skins, blue skins, purple skins, legendary skins, and then when you have all the like purple and legendary skins, then it starts giving you crafting materials instead of those skins. So actually getting crafting materials is pretty rare.
You know, actually, this Gibby skin sort of has... It's not quite, but it's sort of like my... It looks like my cloak. Look at that.
Ooh, yeah, that was good.
Sorry,
see
chat,
my
I was
Gibby
putting on
skin?
some,
It's not
putting on
perfect,
some
but it'll
trousers.
it will do.
It's better than the naked look you had. So
Yeah. Better than the 0 drip.
exactly. I was gonna show you a really cool Gibby skin, but the game hucked us.
Yeah, chat, I was naked.
What?
Oh, sorry, I meant to mute.
What? Were you naked?
No, that's like the worst thing I could have
Why are you naked? What is going on? What kind of stream are you running over there?
Nothing. It's just I needed to put on some trousers because my legs were cold because I was just in my underwear.
Yeah, Chad, I was naked. Luca?
Luca?
Kill leader Luca? Hello?
Luca?
What's Luca doing here?
Who's
That-
where?
He's the kill leader, the champion.
Oh. Oh shit.
Look at these
Look at
nuts.
these fucking hippos, man.
Alright, where are we dropping? Oh, I did it again.
Yeah, we're going there.
We going.
We go to
Let's
the
land
Great
in this
Hall.
building right here.
Yes.
Copy that.
Oh, it looks like there's a team going on as well.
There it is.
I am getting away from that.
Kami, I swear if this is you again.
Oh my
Front
god.
door, mister. I cracked him. Ooh, blue on country as well. Oh, stick low. Got him.
Oh my god.
I got him,
There's
I got
one
him.
cracked building.
I'm trying to figure out
Ah shit.
where the last is, but I don't know where they are.
Here we go.
Need to reload.
You're good.
Oh fuck. Okay.
What do you need? You need cells?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, puppy.
There's a wingman here.
You sound like Kamito.
Who?
You know Kamito? He's
No.
my son.
The sun.
He's a
Gave
Japanese VTuber. Yeah, I gave birth. And he always calls me Papi.
Oh,
Aw.
how cute. Hmm. Hmm. Should I
You know,
consider
Kana is
something?
actually my dad. Your senpai is actually my dad.
Really?
Yeah. He adopted me.
When?
Like in September.
Oh, I'm so sorry for you.
Why?
I can't believe you got adopted.
I like Kamito. I mean, kinda.
Oh yeah, but I'm so sorry for them. Sorry,
What?
not you.
Why wouldn't you want to adopt me? I don't understand. Like, what's... What?
Well, I mean, do you
What?
really want me to answer the question? Like,
This whole
Like-
conversation is so very hilarious.
What is it that you don't want?
I'm
What-
pogging.
I feel like you'd be a problematic child.
How? I just play video games in my room all day long.
Exactly. When you're gonna do the chores, huh?
I don't...
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Why do I need to do the chores if I don't do anything? You know?
Yeah, what is this thing?
I just wear the same clothes every day.
There's something going on over here.
I'm fighting guys.
He's cracked.
That guy's cracked as well. But like not at the game. Caustic's purple. What is that? What is that? What did he just do?
Knocked a dude for like 9 damage. Ooh.
Oh my God!
Careful, Vox. On your building. You're doing good, Vox. You're
I thought
farming.
that was already popped. I didn't know it was like gonna pop again.
Oh, that was you. Sorry.
That's
I
me.
didn't see
Just
your
play
name.
behind my shield. You're fine. Oh,
How did they do that?
What happened to you, Mysta? I just hear Mysta's dying in the background.
Hey, I got premium currency, baby.
Yo!
I got 100 coins.
Did that caustic?
4 days.
How much for the 750 coins? Damn.
The caustic killed me. Did a 360 before he killed me. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. He like spun in a circle and killed me.
What's this? Oh, that's depressing. What is? Nope. 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 That's kind of cute. Nope. 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 I'll keep that. Music pack.
Oh. I actually got 360 no scope or some shit like that. I don't know what it was.
Vacation. Because the line just to end it. Alright. Oh, wait, what was this then? Try playing. He's Storman for Octane Movement. He is
I'm never gonna tell
amazing.
I'm not gonna tell him he's not muted.
Am I getting de-snutsed?
No, Starman's a player. He's a
Oh, okay.
streamer slash ex-pro player. He's one of the most mechanically like skilled Octane
Oh,
players.
really?
Yeah. Storman, like this.
You and I are not equals.
You and I are not equal.
You and I are not equals.
You and I are not
You and I are not equals.
Alright, we're going.
You and I.
We have
Can we make
one,
that?
2, 4 teams here. Can we make it there?
That
Yeah, of
sounds-
course we can.
yeah.
So like,
Let's
you
go
look.
for a nice westerly jog.
If you want to stretch, you look down until you reach 150 speed, and then you look forward.
Oh, 150.
Yeah, 140, 150 is what you want to hit.
Interesting.
Okay, that wasn't bad.
That was bad.
Not bad.
One team landed with us, but they landed in the building.
Oh, fuck.
Oh,
Well,
oh,
that's
wait a
shit.
minute.
Uh-oh. Yep, I'm getting rubber banding.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, then. What
That's
happened?
fine.
Alright, this is gonna be an unnatural advantage for us, okay? The enemy just won't be able to track properly and we'll clean house. Easy.
You think? Oh my god, this is so... This is like the worst. Oh, he's really low.
1 HP on a Bangalore, like actual one. Not kidding. I can't kill him. I actually can't. Vox, they're running towards you. Oh no, they're not. They're running away from you actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're scared of
I'm
you.
terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm a big scary bitch.
I just realized that I'm not playing Octane.
Ash is good. If you use her Q really well.
I think there's a guy behind us.
I think
Unless the audio
he
is
climbed
weird.
in here.
Oh yeah, there is.
Oh no. Get him up. Nice.
I'm coming to you guys.
Vox is in a 1v1 right now.
Not.
Nice. Right. You should armor swap my
Oh my
body.
god.
That guy inside.
Alright, this is fine.
It's fine. Mysta has a PK. This is winnable.
I am lagging so fucking bad right now.
See, I told you.
Vox, are they all dead? They're all dead. They're all dead.
Wait, self-revive.
Get him,
I'm
Mysta.
reloading.
Yeah,
I was
baby.
reloading.
Yeah.
Good job. You guys carried.
That
Let's
might
go.
have been the first fight we've won today.
Yeah. Oh my god,
No,
it's
it
so
wasn't.
laggy. I can't even.
Second
It
or
is
third.
So laggy.
Okay, okay.
Oh.
Wait, I'm achieving my dream. I'm getting carried by VTubers. Life's
Alright, where
great.
is
I'll
the-
just kick back. Don't even res me. I'll just kick back
No,
and spectate. This is good.
No. You have no idea how weird that was on my POV, man. Like, holy fuck.
Hold on.
I saw Vox farming. Vox actually got 2 kills.
I did. I was doing alright.
you did
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
Seemingly, I like the Prowler. I'm sticking with the Prowler.
Yeah, you seem to be good with it.
Alright. Just get rid of that. We got 2 Phoenix
Jesus
kits.
Christ.
See it.
Are you lagging still really badly, Mysta?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Both of you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
The lag is my strength.
Are you guys on the same internet provider or something?
I don't think so.
What do you got, mister?
I've got like a Now TV type of deal.
That's okay. That sounds really bad. I'm on Virgin Media.
I heard.
My internet's never had a problem before though.
I heard terrible things about Virgin Media.
Yeah.
Thanks. I actually used to have Virgin Media. I switched off it. Ooh. British diva? Yeah. Basically.
Okay, like Virgin Media, they have good speeds, but it like breaks down a lot. And there was a really fun story that happened when our internet got set up. There was this dude, there's this bald guy who came over to set it up called Patrick, and he was
Of course
really
he's
lovely. He was bald, and he was like just sort of like a hello mate, all right, we're gonna set up your Wi-Fi now, and he set it all up. But he left his glasses. And we tried like calling him and to say like, yo, you know, you left your glasses, and he was like, all right, I'll come pick them up. But he never did. And then a year later, like we were having really bad internet issues, like really, really bad. And we called like, hey Virgin, can you send a dude over to get it for us? And it was Patrick. The
He didn't
same
get his
guy
glasses?
got sent out by Virgin Media, and we got a chance to give him his glasses back.
Why did he never come back for them?
I don't know. He just sort of, I guess he just didn't need them. Maybe they were just like fashion, and we thought it was a bigger deal than it actually was.
Aren't glasses expensive? Who the fuck just leaves them?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Patrick's a baller. Maybe they trained their engineers really
Well,
well.
why did you keep the glasses for so long?
Maybe he
Well,
works.
because they belong to somebody else. We were like, yo.
What was he gonna do with them? Is that
gonna
just throw them in the
sell 'em.
trash?
No, we left it. We had a little like a decoration, like an ornamental skull on the mantelpiece, because we're cool like that. We just put the glasses on it for like a year, and then Patrick came over and took them back.
What the hell?
Yeah.
You think Patrick has like a different job and he's like actually loaded, and then this is just like his cover-up job?
Oh,
that he
yeah,
works
yeah.
for Virgin Media.
It's either a cover up or it's like his passion. Like he loves being a
Right.
Wi-Fi engineer. Like every time he, you know, like that's his passion. But you know, the rest of the time he's like a CEO, and he
Yeah.
doesn't even need to like worry about his glasses.
You got glasses all over the place.
I've got like 3 batteries if anyone needs them.
I'm good. I got one.
I have one. I have none.
You may. Right there. Wait,
Vox
actually,
healing?
let me bring it to you. I'm
Okay.
miles away.
Healing right now. Vox.
Oh shit. Yeah, yeah. Didn't even realize where I took the damage from. Forgot we even had a fight. Can't even remember those guys.
You're still thinking about Patrick.
Yeah, we're talking about Patrick. Okay, hold on. There you go, Mysta.
Thank you,
It's okay.
What's the bad, Jim?
Patrick Chad. Patrick Star. Wee.
Hey, you guys actually carried the first fight. I'm so proud. Look at us.
Thank you.
You guys are farming.
Carry is a strong.
I died first and did no damage, and you guys killed everyone. Therefore, you carried. Isn't that how it works?
I only killed one.
Hoist.
Yeah, but Vox killed 2, but together you guys killed 3.
Carrying.
Yeah.
It was a 2v3 and you guys won. Can you just be proud of yourself for a second?
No.
I'm proud of myself.
There you go.
Being proud of yourself is not the Asian way, and I'm Filipino.
Instead, you're just looking for excuses to hate in yourself.
Exactly, Misty. You should love yourself.
Nope.
The way I love you.
Nope. You didn't have Filipino parents then.
Anyway, I didn't.
How'd you know? I didn't actually.
See, anyone who's Filipino, you can understand in the chat. You get it, right? You get it.
Just hitting us with depression right now.
No, it's not depression. It's it's just the way.
It's
the
just
way we
straight,
do it.
straight
I
facts.
just want you to love
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
You know what they say, if you don't love yourself, how are you gonna love anyone else?
Exactly.
Mmm.
There you go.
Yeah, still mastered. Oh.
That's
Alright,
a
let's
little bit
go.
of self. That's a little bit of self-love.
Yeah, that's self-love.
There you go. Pat yourself on the back a little bit. Good job.
Oh, I don't get... That doesn't turn me on, but...
What does that have to do with turning on and off?
Oh.
You're supposed to give yourself a little bit of credit. It's not sexual. Not everything in life is sexual, mister.
Oh. You sound like my therapist right now.
Okay, dude, I'm done. You really is a dog on it.
Oh
Mister,
my
if you
God.
were an actual dog, what breed would you be?
Breedable.
You know, one time I had a... You know, one time I had a user in chat come and they asked me, what breed of EU are you? What are we, fucking dogs in EU? Like, holy shit.
It's like, oh yes, he's a pedigree Italian.
My god. I saved that quote forever. It's like one of our chat commands.
Oh, there's someone there.
Oh, they're close to me.
Yeah.
Red said 90 purple.
Holy fuck, why does it shoot like this? I think I've never shot this weapon before.
They're running away. They're scared of us now. Of course they're scared. Up the hill?
Word
41
about-
I
blue?
can't
about
even see what I'm
2v3
aiming at.
cavalry
Chat, what the
bar.
fuck is this gun?
What are you shooting? Like, what gun?
RE45, but it's gold.
Oh yeah, that's probably not the best gun.
Oh, shit.
Vox!
Oh, fuck. Oh, God!
That's not good. No!
Well, I'm fucking dead. I think we're all dead.
dead
We
here.
both have gold shields.
We block here with
I'm
gold
dead.
shields forever.
Yeah,
We block here
yeah.
with gold shields forever. I'm dead.
Nope.
Fuck.
Man, I'm dead. No cap, bro.
A laser beam
Man, I'm
gun.
dead.
Hammer
Bad.
point.
It's unlucky. They're cheating.
Alright, wait. Can me or Vox like search? Like, you just
Yeah,
search?
yeah. I'm gonna leave the lobby and I'm gonna join you guys.
Okay.
Um,
Who's the leader now? Are you? Oh yeah, you are Vox.
you guys have to invite me. I can join.
Invite.
Oh my god, hi, Mousy.
Pepperoni skin, Vox. What is that?
It's flowers.
I'm here.
Pepperoni, mozzarella.
They're flowers.
Or I'm just hungry, I guess.
They're
You just
flowers.
hungry. They actually are like. I actually like that skin a lot.
They're
No cap.
flowers, mister. I thought they were pretty.
I actually like that skin a
And
lot.
in it at the end of every sentence for this round.
Please don't.
I'll do it if you donate 100. Not 10. Do you know how taxing it is to say in it?
100? But you're fucking expensive.
Listen, it's also very taxing on gameplay. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard about the legendary chicken run I did in Sekiro, where or the Catboy run, where I had to say nya at the end of every sentence.
Oh,
and
God.
I died so early in that run. I died to one of the chickens in the first area. I have never in my 100 hours in Sekiro died to a chicken, but it happened there because I was thinking about saying nya the entire time.
Yeah. Did you lose a bet?
It was like every time I lose a 0 death run, I had to do some kind of a challenge, like a batsu. It was pretty bad.
Yeah. I bet people love that though. That was probably one of your best streams. Lost to a chicken.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Alright.
I was in low health. Chicken pushed me and I fell off a cliff.
Oh. Sounds fucking.
All right, where we go?
Like a bad way to go.
Okay.
What are you, a mule?
Alright.
No, you see the hippos on the left? I'm trying to like.
Those are
replicate
not
that
hippos,
noise.
they're horses.
Fucking deers, horses, hippos, same fucking shit. Don't you think they
They're
sound like
long
that?
boys.
Ooh.
No, they probably sound like. That's how they
Holy
sound.
fuck!
Go
Okay.
ahead. Go
Thanks,
ahead.
in it. Alright, in it. Let's do it in it.
Oh my god, I'm gonna hate this in it.
It's gonna infect you, innit?
Yeah, it might infect me in it.
The inner infection, innit? Alright.
Is it
Can't
really
stand you
happening?
in it.
Alright, innit? Oh, there's people over there, innit?
I used to have a friend group when I was younger, and they were all British, so I'm actually used to it.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's really easy to get used to it, innit?
We're the reincarnation of those friends in it. The British never die in it.
In it? What's in here, Dan? Oh, just some extended magazines, in it, for your energy? Energy.
This is too much.
There's a
I
lot of
can't,
stuff
I
there.
can't. I wanna close my ears.
Watch this in it. Watch this in it. Watch this in it. We're about to see some bow gameplay in it.
Got one?
I got a thingy.
Already in it.
You already in it?
Where are they in it?
Or here? Inside? I think they're raising or something. Or they raised?
Okay.
Where are they?
Coming.
Are they below? What am I hearing?
Oh yeah, they're below, they're below.
Why does it sound like they're in front of me? That guy's low, the low butt. Get the low box.
Fuck!
Where are these people?
I can't hear her! Camera is. I actually couldn't
Yeah.
hear her. She's 1 HP and she's running away.
I think.
I can't like see anyone. Wait, here's
Yeah,
someone
it's
behind.
very confusing because like they're below the building. They sound like they're not. White armor rate. I'm out of ammo actually. This is really bad.
See if I can't find her. Oh no! Shit, bubble dropped and I instantly
From
got
here,
sniped.
from here.
Fuck me.
Oh god.
Holy shit!
Get on this side, Vox. Oh no. Oh no. Now I got headshotted.
Dude, I feel so blind.
You should
Like, I
bubble
can't
as soon as you
blind
get up.
people. I feel so blind, innit? Sorry, innit? Forgot to say it, innit?
This
I'll
the
block you in
audio
it! I'll
here
block
is
you in it! Oh, innit! They're behind us, innit!
No, I can't climb. I was stuck. Oh Oh,
I
God.
feel so blind, man. I couldn't see anyone.
Okay,
What
the
the
audio was really
fuck?
bad. Okay, I think we lost that one to audio. I think we can agree on that. I did not know where the enemy was until the last second.
All just tech issues. All just tech issues. Not our fault.
It was not an
Tech
aim
9.
or a movement problem. Did you say Tech 9?
Power. We stay hungry, we devour. Put in the work, put in the hours.
Are you talking about the pistol from CSGO, Tech 9?
No, Tech 9 the rapper.
Oh, I don't know that rapper.
Thank you, Daisuke. And
My bad.
Apparently, he's hungry.
Tech 9? I don't know, I've never heard of Tech 9.
Just let me
what?
finish my
He's a
cereal.
really good rapper.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. He does a like lyrical rap.
I haven't listened to like Western rap in a couple of years now. I've mostly been listening to K-rap, like Korean hip hop.
Oh. Oh, this map.
Oh, it's Stone Point. Let's go. Big map.
I fucking hate this map.
Why? I mean, it's not good for
It's,
pubs.
So open.
Yeah. It is pretty open, but it's not bad in my opinion.
How many heirlooms do I have? 1. But I got it by mistake.
You didn't get it by mistake. You got lucky and you got it. How is that a mistake?
That is a mistake because now people think I'm good.
Which one
Okay.
is it?
The Octane one.
Oh man, wish I got an heirloom by mistake, chat. Wouldn't that be great? What a crazy mistake to do. Holy shit. $500 mistake. Wow.
$500. Does it cost $1 per pack?
Yeah, it's $1 per pack, and then at 500 packs, you're guaranteed to get an heirloom.
Oh.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I only opened like 13 packs. Are you mad?
Well, I have 11 heirlooms or something, so.
Oh, okay.
Man, that's like $6,500. $5,500.
Yeah, I'm a fucking idiot.
Well,
Well, they cost less when you get them in an event. Because in an event, you can spend like $200 and get all the skins from the event, and then the reward for buying all the skins is an heirloom.
what?
Yeah, if you get like if you do get it during the event, it's actually worth it. If you're getting it from opening, you get these nuts from opening packs, then you know
Jeez.
it's not worth it.
I've only got Milan before, but I don't know.
Yeah, just open packs and write it off in taxes. That's what I do.
Did you get Milan?
Did I get what? Did you get?
Milan. Did you get Milan?
You're such a fucking 12-year-old. He's so 12. Holy shit. That's not tax evasion, chat. Pro players can write off in-game purchases as taxes. It's normal. Everyone does it, especially
I
Valorant
write
pros.
off my Genshin tools as a business expense.
Yeah, it's a business expense. It's for your job. You need to look good in game for your job.
Exactly.
Right?
Wingman Gaming.
Tax evasion would be if I didn't pay taxes at all,
Everybody in chat, remember to pay your taxes.
which I did pay my taxes like a couple weeks ago, and I'll tell you what, I want to square up with the entire government.
Okay, man. I'll
Set up.
join you.
You don't fight my government with me.
Yeah, yeah. I got you. I got you.
Oh my god. Let's
We
just hope it goes better than our Apex.
Oh shit. Well, we're doing fine. We're not doing terrible. We got a second on our first game. You know, we got some kills.
And it just went downhill since then.
It's okay. We'll bring it back right here. Look, I'll go serious
Yeah,
mode.
we'll bring it back.
We'll bring it back.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
I've just been enjoying myself with talking, so I wasn't tryharding. Now I'm gonna try hard.
Yeah.
Alright, nice.
Okay.
And
I like
now
to
he
chat
will try.
during my call-ups, and then chatting and then playing at the same time is difficult,
Mhm.
even for us pro players, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Looks terrible.
Yeah, this is great. All right.
I got a match.
Should we go in the big boomy boom?
Yeah.
Or
Big
it's bad.
Boomy boom.
This
What do you
this
mean?
thing. The big
No,
like
I kind of want to go towards the Jurassic Park here, and then get some good armor.
Go Jurassic Park.
Yeah, because if we shoot them, we can level up our Evo on them.
I've never watched that movie. The Jurassic
Really?
Jurassic Park, really?
It's very good. Very
The
good.
one, well, do I start with the Chris Pratt one or do I start with the original?
Absolutely not. You start with the original.
But it has Mario himself in the movie.
Well, why not just wait for the Mario movie?
Oh yeah, that's gonna. Oh, I want to
Just
do a
start
watch
with the
along for
original.
that.
Listen, I
originals
will
are
as
really
well. I
good.
will as well. Can you believe that Jack Black is going to be talented? Like, to me, that's genuinely a genius
Rogen,
casting
though.
decision.
I think that's a good one, yeah. But Seth Rogen as
Like, listen, man kind of sounds like a gorilla. He's like, hey, Mario, banana slammer.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater. I don't know.
I think he needs to lighten up a little bit.
You don't like
Where did he spawn from?
this little ant thing? Is that an enemy? Yeah, that is an enemy.
Hey, oh, slow down a little. You got too much dip on
You
your
could
chip.
bubble box. Bubbling will be good.
I have bubbled.
Nice. Perfect. Save yourself, heal yourself. Shoot the enemy. That guy's flesh. Pop the battery.
Oh god.
Kill dogs, kill dogs.
Dog's
We're
dead.
good. I just heard you say Vox is dead. Did you kill
No,
Vox?
Dog's dead.
Okay.
Or is that the
Don't-
same thing?
Don't kill Vox, we need him.
Okay. Oh, I need to reload. Where'd he at though?
They're still across the
Yeah.
field. They actually had purple armors. Oh, they run away. Why? Oh no, they're not. They're still here. The dogs are attacking them right now.
Yeah, should we push him?
Yeah, I think we should. While he's
Okay,
busy
okay.
shooting the dogs. I only
Yeah,
saw one.
the dogs are a third party. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Those are
Oh,
not
they're moving out.
like two. But I just purple armor.
Crack.
What the fuck? What?
One dead.
The price,
Can I hit one
Valk
person?
is super low. That's really low.
If it's purple,
Whoa,
you're,
hey.
you're safe and lost. Bubble when you can.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared.
On me, Gibraltar.
Ow! What the fuck, Prowler?
He's cracked. One HP up. I got him. It's the horizon. You're still getting prowler. Hey. Purple armor.
Get him. Bad. Okay, nice.
Alright, we're improving. This is good.
Mysta, are you a wingman main, Mysta?
No, I can't use the wingman normally.
That's pretty good.
Let's switch to this there.
That was pretty good. That got a lot of light ammo over there. The horizon. Gonna grab that.
Alright, I'm all good. I'm good now.
We are juiced. I'm dropping medkits.
I'm getting juiced out.
Ooh, fighting down here in antenna. Let's win this game. Let's show them that we can win a game.
Yes, we can do this. We can do this.
We can do this.
Focus.
We can actually win a game. We're not all talk. We're actually we put in the work as well.
We're going to work on the hours to take us hours.
Damn it. That's a good point.
They're there.
Yeah. Let's get a little bit closer, but let's not get like all the way in because
Okay.
we don't want a round 2 of third party central.
Okay. Yeah, I see one there.
It seems like 2 teams.
I don't
I
really
want
want
to
to shoot.
I kind of want to shoot him, but he's behind something right now,
Okay.
so I can't see him.
I'm right behind you.
Yeah, I'm being very careful because I don't know how many there are. Oh, he's crossing. 45 purple. I suck.
I don't see him.
He's on the left door.
Okay.
Whoa, hey, what?
In the window.
Yeah, there's 2 inside here. They're on the roof. They're on the roof.
There's a race.
Ooh, careful. There's a lot of them. Play safe.
Oh shit.
They can't shoot through these chain links, right?
Yeah, they can.
Oh, they can?
Yeah, I think they changed it. I just cracked one.
Vox, you're getting pushed.
Oh shot.
I'm coming.
Yeah, that was gonna happen. Oh fuck.
That's fine. If we play this smart, we can come back.
Oh my god.
I'm looking for you.
Alright, I gotta run out.
Oh, they're so aggressive. I got a bet.
I can like jump at us.
Oh, he's on us already. Oh my god.
No! No!
Let's try.
I'm sorry, guys. That was me. I wasn't.
No, it's not your fault. It's not
I
your
did
fault.
like nothing. Fuck!
These guys are cheating. Clearly, they're clearly cheating. We'd never lose a fight
Yeah,
otherwise.
cheating,
Clearly
cheaters.
cheating. Clearly cheating.
Cheaters. Alright.
I would never lose a gunfight otherwise in my life. I've never lost a fight. I'm a pro player. I don't lose fights. These damn cheaters, man, all the time, dude.
Hmm.
Show these guys we can win, dies instantly. Shut up! Like, just shut up. Like, just give us encouragement, not put us down.
Yeah, be supportive, guys. Come on.
We're trying our best. We're fighting cheaters every game.
Yeah, the cheaters and stream snipers, okay, chat?
Yeah, cheaters, stream snipers,
Yep.
and just like the worst, the worst. It's all now
And then
lobbies.
we have 2 British debuffs and a bold debuff, okay?
Why am I bold?
Like,
I'm not bold. I got a lot of hair.
Actually has the least hair of any living being. To be honest, he might as well just be a tennis ball.
You
Wait,
like-
tennis balls have plenty of hair.
Did
Okay,
Bao
fine.
pay you guys or something?
No.
To call me bald all the time?
No.
no, if she
Yeah.
did, then I wouldn't tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder who threw that $100 earlier. I wonder who threw that. Maybe we can trace the account.
Alright, Vox.
I mean,
Well,
neither
yeah.
bold or mold. I am perfectly fine.
Wait a minute. Is this the map with the hole? Yes.
Yeah, the
Another
arsehole
butthole.
going
Let's
anal.
go. All right, we
Are
go
we a bit
butthole. We
late
go butthole.
Yeah, we can make it. We can make
Can we
it.
make anal?
But there's a. Okay, so we gotta look more up, Vox. Oh, we can't make it anymore.
Where should we go to?
Let's go here. Let's go here. We can still go
Yeah.
in there, just a
Okay.
different entrance.
Oh, yeah,
Alright,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
whoever
like anal.
actually goes, whoever
Just
goes
like
asshole,
anal.
we can snipe them. Be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What are you asshole police?
Exactly, protecting the asshole from unwanted threats.
And there's like 3 chests over here.
I got no guns. I still have no guns.
Oh, 2 sentinels. Why this?
I'm coming,
Game, I
Vox.
can't aim. Remember?
I'm dead. This sucks.
Oh, how stinky of this game to
Okay,
do
I'll
this
just
to
not
me.
hit anything. Oh my god!
Mister, I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun.
Fuck, man.
I found a gun.
It's okay. RP, I believe in you! Fuck, man. I believe. See how a pro player does this, chat. Okay. Okay.
What are you doing?
Okay.
I don't understand what this player's doing. Stop with the noise!
Oh my god. I didn't even hear his footsteps. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
You can't hear him because this guy's spamming his knockdown shield.
Damn.
Alright, we're good. We're
Bro.
alive.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, listen.
Holy jeez.
He's just going zzzz next to my ear and while I'm fighting a guy. I guess he's helping his teammate. Can't really blame him.
Yeah, true.
Oh, how do we... There it is.
We're fine. We're gonna rest here. We're gonna win this game.
That heirloom looks really cool.
Yeah, it's the kunai for raid. It's the first heirloom that ever came out.
Yeah,
Oh.
I remember that.
It looks so cool. Holy
The
shit.
second one is Bloodhound's axe, and I think Bloodhound's axe is really cool as well. It's like this, just red.
Oh.
It looks like an axe.
Buff. Bold buff. You don't get buff for being bold.
Dude,
Yeah, you do.
first and
How else are you
foremost,
gonna
I'm
explain
not
what
bold.
this is,
Yeah, okay, you're not bold. Yeah.
Wink.
We get it, we get it. Okay.
Ooh, Havoc.
I think you're zipping into a team, Mysta.
Well, I'll just
Yeah, they're right there.
just gonna grab this and then zip back out then.
Yeah, we should go back to our butthole up there.
Bye-bye.
And loot our butthole.
Oh man, I have a Havoc skin. Cool.
Yep, let's
Oh,
look
yeah.
at the butthole.
Let's go back
Can't
up.
even tell. Maybe this is just what the Havoc looks like.
I'm getting gaslighted. Welcome to my life. VTubers gaslighting me 24/7. When I first played with Selim, that was the first like VTuber gaslighting I've experienced in my life.
Really? What is she saying?
Everything. She's
What do you
saying
mean everything?
Everything. And then after that, after she was done saying everything, she invited like, I don't know, like 5,000 people in total to stream snipe us, and we got stream snipe for like 10 games in a row by like
Oh my
20
God.
plus people. Yeah. And she was like, "You're a pro player. You should be able to do this. You should be able to fight all these stream snipers. You're a pro player." Mold.
Damn, man, that kinda
Yeah, you
that
sound
yeah.
very mold.
Damn, that kind of sucks.
Grab this.
It does
grab
suck.
this.
We didn't get a single win.
Who needs wins?
True.
Not me.
Who needs wins when we have friends like these, huh?
We're gonna win now, though. We don't need wins, but we're gonna win anyway. To prove
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, we don't need
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
This is what, see, it's like if you need the win, you shouldn't have it. Tony Stark.
Exactly. This is gonna
Tony Stark, 2013.
Tony
It's gonna-
Stink.
prove everyone that we can do it if we wanted to, but like we don't want to all the time, right? So, just like sometimes.
That's a good anime opening.
Which anime?
Oh, that was a song?
Yeah, it's from Kuroko no Basket.
It didn't sound like you were singing. It sounded like you were just making noise.
Okay, don't. He's got a karaoke stream coming up. Don't do this to him, dude.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh god.
You just ruined his confidence that he was building for weeks.
I
Vox,
didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry.
fix it now.
Mister. I think you've got a beautiful voice.
Thanks, Vox. I think you... What was that noise? I think you also have a
Video one,
decent voice.
juice.
Thank
over
you.
here.
I have bought a total of 1 voice pack.
One.
Yep.
Oh god. You're balling. Aren't Vox's voice packs are like, you know,
Oops. Didn't mean to do that.
they're like high class, really hard to get by, you know.
Yeah, hard to come by.
Kill
Vox's-
leader eliminated.
Right, we got
Voice
good.
pack.
We got good weapons now.
Schwat.
I hear people shooting, and I see people shooting. Let's go run at them a little
My
bit.
own voice pack because I'm an idiot.
You bought your own voice pack?
Yeah, because I'm an idiot.
You love yourself.
No,
As he should. As he should.
Yeah.
No.
Just pretending he doesn't.
My friend just got downed.
Tomato Town.
Revived him.
Whoa.
Southbound. Pleasant
That's an
Park
ash
Street.
ult next to us. Oh, I see a pattern flying. And a ash walking.
Oh yeah, I see them too.
Let's assassinate them.
Oh, that's on the right
That's
side.
a different team on the right side.
Oh shit.
Okay, this guy doesn't like
That's
me.
a
I'm
really
gonna-
bad place to be in, right?
Yeah, we should pull back a little bit.
Yeah,
Vox,
pull back, pull back.
pop a bubble
He's
box.
cracked. He's really low.
Pop a
back,
bubble
pull back.
box. They're gonna
Yeah,
push
they're like
Vox, I think.
TVs.
Yeah, they're pushing Vox. There's two teams, Mysta, so you gotta chill a little bit.
Yeah.
Hold it,
Oh,
battery.
fuck.
Oh, he's already. He full grappled into
Fuck. Holy shit!
Oh my
I saw
god.
him slide in.
Okay, that was unlucky. They're cheating again.
Ah, so many cheaters today, man. What
Yeah,
the fuck?
he had
God.
the extra long grapple, dude.
Yep. And when I was aiming at him, my aim went everywhere. Like,
Yeah, he's got the anti-hit
Anti-aim,
aim assist.
yeah.
Yeah.
what
yeah,
is
yeah.
that shit, man?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And the game was lagging. It was lagging
game
so
was
Yeah,
much.
man. Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
streaming,
The
so we're trying to be
FPS.
entertaining while we're
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
it,
yeah.
you know?
Wasn't focused
Like-
completely.
Wasn't focused completely, yeah.
Yeah.
Not copium. Not copium.
I've never coped in my life, actually. I haven't
Yeah.
had to.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Cheaters, man.
I'm back. I've never coped in my life.
Never
I don't.
coped.
I don't cope. I just cry.
You just accept it. You take it.
I just like, cope, seethe, mauled.
Yeah, I've never coped either in my life. So.
Ahoy!
Oh, baby!
As a pro player, I know when the enemy is cheating
Yeah.
because that's an asset that you develop over time, right? Takes time, but you develop it. And yeah, those guys are all cheating. Every single one of them.
I believe you because you're a pro player.
Exactly. Because I'm a pro player. Because I know these things. Because I deal with them on a daily basis.
I'm gonna try out this person because they look pretty hot.
Oh, Valkyrie.
True.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give us wall hack. I'm gonna play some wall hack. If they're cheating,
Okay.
why don't we cheat? You know?
Yeah.
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 I think my
Yeah.
character has no clip, so I can fly around.
Yeah, similar. Yeah, pretty similar.
I'm Gibby.
I'm Gibby.
Your character's got a fat ass, and that's the only thing.
My
that
character
matters.
does have all we need. All we need is the cake.
Someone's got to have the cake, you know.
Uh-huh. I have a pretty nice class.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but this entire map is one big mountain. Like it starts from up here, goes all the way down here, all the way down
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
I didn't notice that.
there.
I
And
thought
like,
it was an island.
Pain death.
well,
Why
there's
is
an
Rick so
island, but it's
edgy?
also a mountain.
Damn.
Pain death. What the
Nothing
fuck?
phases me.
Oh my god. It's highlighting all the enemies. Sorry, I have my hacks on again. Oh shit. Chat, don't
Yeah.
look.
Can you
Don't
stop wall hacking?
What was that one CSGO thing? Clara?
Clara! Clara! Must have installed cheats on my account again! Oh my god, Clara!
I gotta call Clara real quick.
Oh no!
Oh shit, they're like right there, huh?
Yeah. Look at him. Look at all them
they're killing.
chickens.
Look at all those kids.
He's landing alone on his bins. You can punch him.
Punch him to death.
Give me a gun, give me a gun. Okay, I got a gun. Okay, I'm coming, chat.
I did a 80 on him, Vox. I got him.
I'm coming.
Behind
I'm
you.
trying. I got the sentinel. I can't hit shit. Can't hit shit. I'm dead.
40 blue on the octane. I'm gonna scan for you, mister. Get him. Very low. Nice.
Down.
Yay.
Okay, well, where's the...
I have no idea. I'm gonna resurrect my lord.
Okay,
Thank you.
I
have
think
a
they were
medkit
there,
for you.
but...
Thank you.
What does that even have? That's it?
You're there.
Thank you.
I love wall hack. So great. Ouch. He's a fellow. I cannot hit him.
Dude, I can't even.
I got my
He just want purple armor. That's not fair. He's cheating. He's spawning armors.
Crack.
Walk in.
That's...
Oh, I'm alive. Look at my health.
Oh my god, dude.
Not even close. Vox, your favorite turbocharger?
Thank you.
Waiting for you.
What the fuck?
Wasn't even close. I'm I'm totally not, you know, a hair of HP.
I need light ammo.
I actually think currently I am less than 1 HP. Like, this is like half a health point. I feel like I'm in Sword Art Online. I'm Kirito after defeating that Gleam Eyes, and I'm like just barely staying alive.
I have never actually watched that.
Yeah, me neither.
You should definitely watch the first episode of Sword Art Online. Those are like insane.
Oh, I've watched the first episode.
Yeah, I think we all have, and then the rest of the
And
series.
then stopped.
The first 12 episodes of Sword Art Online is insane. Everything else, meh.
I saw I saw the part where he stood there and then got hit by like 5 people. And then they were like, Nani? Go! And then he beat him up.
I wish they took that whole like arc of Eincard. That arc is called Eincard because like the part of the game, and they actually made that like a 2-season anime or something. Because it was actually so good. Like they're in a game stuck and they have to like survive, or they actually just die.
I thought that was the whole point of the.
Well, yeah, it is for the first like 12 episodes or something, and then they get out of it eventually, and then then just like takes like a weird turn. I don't know. It's just they end up playing.
I saw this tentacle scene of Asuna before.
What?
Crafted.
What website
Yeah,
is it?
What we crafted, boys? Shield battery, yes please.
You sure that was on an anime website? You sure you went on the wrong website?
No, it was an anime episode. I think.
I don't recall. A
Pretty
tentacle
sure it
scene.
was.
Chat saying wrong website.
No,
You sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, baby.
There is a tentacle scene, right? And the tentacles are like purple, right, chat?
Maybe I'm old.
I'm
Second half of season 1.
She's in a bird cage.
Oh. Is that those are tentacles there?
Yeah, apparently. I think I was right. Yes, but context. What other context do you need? Asuna getting like touched up by tentacles. That's enough. That is the scene, my doggy.
Right. I must have suppressed my memory.
What does my ult do on this character, by the way?
You
Before I
fly.
use it?
We fly together.
Oh, it's that one. Okay.
Yeah, it's like redeploy.
When do we use it?
You can use it right now if Vox gets us.
Okay.
Let's get on top of this so we get maximum juice.
Okay.
Wait. Oh no, shit. Oh fuck.
What'd you do? You need something?
I just crafted a shotgun bolt. I don't have a shotgun.
Oh, I can take that. I have a shotgun.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was for you, big guy. That was for
Movement
you.
on this
so
character
much.
is really nice, actually.
What are you saying, sir?
The
like the
movement on this character is really good.
Yeah, it's really nice. Control players love it because it's like it eliminates a lot of annoying movements. You just fly up. What other FPS games have you guys ever played before?
Played
I
when I was young.
played a lot of Overwatch.
Come up
so
here,
I played
Vox.
tank, so I wasn't really much of a. It wasn't really much of an FPS, it was more of a MOBA for me. I like Valorant.
Oh, we should play Valorant together.
Good. That would
Come
be
here,
fun.
grab this
Vox, get up
zipline
here,
box.
you fucking...
What did you play, Mysta, before?
Oh, I played COD on console, like, in 2013.
You played anything on MK?
I played... No. I played
Nothing?
League.
Ah,
Yeah,
fuck!
no.
I just fell off. I'm coming back. Yeah, never played
Just
CS:GO or
open
anything.
No, I tried Valorant, like, once or twice.
For someone who hasn't played much FPS at all on like MK, you have pretty good aim. If your own
Thanks.
experience is called
I don't know
out.
about
I've
that.
heard.
I think if you saw my screen, then
Press E on this.
where should we go? Yeah.
Just slam. Yeah, we should probably go over the mountain there anyway. Maybe like clear over the mountain.
Okay, that way.
If we can make it, try and make it between days. He plays Os. Oh, you play Os?
Oh, this is cool.
Oh yeah, but I use tablet and
Ah, yeah, that's
keyboard,
different.
not mouse.
Yeah,
So,
that's different.
yeah.
Maybe you're just a natural.
Oh, there's a care package here.
Mysta might be just a natural.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, if you didn't have any other prior FPS experience. Oh, this is for the big guy. Who's gonna love this one.
Yeah. Oh, you get the cool gun. You're so cool. Oh, turbocharge. Oh wait.
No, I should keep that.
You can take that.
Yes.
I'll take your scraps.
Speed
I'm gonna say Mrs. Natural. Natural aimer. Got it.
Thanks. Well, that's it.
How come you don't play with controller if you have experience with controller?
Because I think if I'm playing on a computer, I should play, like, you know.
Yeah, you're cultured. I understand.
If I'm on... I'm so scared. These noises.
Towers make a lot of noise for no reason.
Can't take
Oh.
compliments? You're right. I can't take compliments.
Let's go. Let's move to zone. Let's win a game. Prove everyone that we can win a game again.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Are we
right.
waiting for care package or?
There's a crafter, not a care package.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
The green lines are crafters, and then the orange and blue lines are care packages. The blue line, when it
I
spawns,
see.
that means an enemy spawned a care package, like an enemy lifeline. Then
Mm.
the orange one is a world drop.
All right. Oh, you're using your wall hacks?
Yeah, I'm actually like full on wall hacking. We're winning this game.
Okay, okay.
Oh,
Time for us to win. We have 2 full squads and a solo, because it's 4 with 10,
Okay.
and we're obviously a full squad.
Are we gonna get wrecked by a solo?
Definitely not. If we lose to anyone, we're not gonna lose to a solo. I'll make sure of that. It's gonna be a full man. You're up here, old man.
I'm up.
We have?
I'm
Should
up.
we just
Oh,
stay
my
here?
knees. Oh, my balls. Oh.
Is
behind
this a
us.
good position to just chill? Or should we move?
Yeah, I was just listening for people, and I just heard someone
Okay.
shoot here.
Okay, I'm coming.
This map is
Oh, yeah,
big, and there's not many people. Oh, in front of me. 111 on Octane.
Yeah, he went behind the rock.
Yeah, he's running to the door. He's scared of me. As he should be. Oh, he's unlucky. 80 purple on the Octane again.
Yeah, I went behind the door.
Yeah, we can kill
Okay,
these
close
guys.
the door.
We could kill these guys without aim. Crack both of them. Crack both of them.
I'm on my way.
No, none of these have hit.
Ooh, I got a heal. One of them got knocked, I believe. I'm gonna scan.
Can I let go of this? No, 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 I don't want to shoot that. How do I let go of that?
Careful, I'm healing. Front door, Pathfinder.
If you're
Vox is getting pushed.
Fuck.
It's okay, it's okay. You're fine.
Oh god, this shit.
Who are these guys? I gotta pop bat.
Yes, two shields, two shields. Okay.
They're all cracked. Vox start crawling towards us. No, I didn't reload. Stop shooting, no bullets.
I think
He's on
they
the
ziplined up. Okay, he fell.
out. Raid. Raid's cracked.
This is fun.
Dead. 2v2, 2v2, Mysta.
They're so low. Okay. There's one here and then one near me. Okay,
How low is he?
the last one's here. Here.
I'm healing.
He's coming up on you. He's jumping.
I'm almost down.
Oh no.
You got this.
I got him.
Nice. Oh, here, behind. He's coming up the hill.
Oh, we won! Let's go!
Nice! Good job, man.
Thank God I
You
did.
carried.
That was clutch. Well done.
Holy shit! Good job, man.
Oh my God! I was thinking in my head, there's no way we don't win another one.
Good fucking job, dude.
What's up, Neon?
we did
Holy
it.
shit.
Oh my god.
That was good.
I didn't do much.
Vox dying there was perfect because I actually got an armor off his body. And armor swapped.
Yeah, this is what I'm here for. 35 damage. Let's go.
You were the moral support of the team. That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah. That's what I exist for, is moral
Your
support. I'm
mental
fine with
doesn't
that.
break. Then.
Exactly. Moral support. And Mysta, you did good. You literally put that guy on 1 HP, so I just insta killed him.
Thanks. Apex pack.
Let's go. Legendary.
Well, I think I'll go
Blue,
one too.
blue,
yeah.
white. Yes.
Blue, white. Pog.
Yeah.
You're farming.
I got
Got your
two. I got
purple.
2 Apex packs actually. Let's see what we got.
We didn't.
Oh, purple, white, blue. What is it gonna be?
You're purple. It's so lucky.
I got a banner pose for Fuse. Oh no,
Yeah, that's-
for Mad Maggie. No. She pushes Fuse over. Right. Okay. I thought it was Fuse.
Oh yeah, that's a funny banner pose.
Yeah.
Really?
All right, who we got? White, blue. Very rare. We got an alternator skin. Not bad. We got a flatline skin. Bengal. Not bad.
Oh. Play this one again.
Yeah, why are you calling Vox lucky when you got an heirloom in 13 packs?
Well, I didn't know that was lucky. That doesn't seem lucky.
It's still lucky. He opened. I can already imagine Mysta's opening packs. He gets an heirloom. He's like, oh, nice. Oh, yeah, click next.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Forgets about it.
Yeah. I was like, oh well, I unlocked Octane, so I might as well unlock the thing for him too.
What about there for 5 months?
Pon
welcome
Pon
back.
Poncar
Okay,
just
fine.
resubscribed for 5 months.
I mean, you got like I can't explain how lucky you got. Some people, what they would do is they would like make a new. If they wouldn't get like a heirloom within their 500 levels, because you get a pack for leveling, right?
Right.
They would keep making new accounts and keep opening packs on new accounts until they get an
my.
heirloom, and they would make the one that gets their heirloom their main account.
What?
Yeah.
We'd love to see it. Love to see that.
So that's like free to play. The harsh life of a free to player.
Yeah.
I am not the jump master.
They would just re-roll their account like 15 times.
I'm the
Although we could
Alright,
go
No,
anal.
no, I
are
think
we
we're
gonna go
watching-
butthole this time?
Well,
Or
we
are
could go anal. We are right on like straight
We're,
track.
we're right on target.
we
We'll just go
definitely could,
anal and
yeah.
then
right on
drop
target for
straight down.
anal. Yeah.
Stay
We're
on
just
target.
slide
Stay
in.
on target.
Alright, chat, we're about to slide an anal. You ready?
Oh shit!
Okay, it's fine. We're a little premature ejaculation, but we're getting there.
There's
think
nothing to
we're
be
too
ashamed
slow.
of.
I think we're too slow.
We
No,
might.
no.
You gotta look up, Vox, a little bit.
I'm looking as up as I possibly can.
Okay, we whiffed. We gotta go to the door.
Okay.
Fuck!
Door again. No, this is fine.
I keep
It
alt
worked.
tabbing and then clicking back on my screen, and the click makes it jump. Fuck!
I'm pretty sure this almost worked last time.
Here we go.
Get some guns. Get some guns. There's a hemlock there, Vox. I'm very low. This Valkyrie in my face.
Thanks to you.
I got her, but oh my god.
Ah! Oh god!
He's losing it.
No! Please!
I'm whipping. I got no ammo. I got 0 ammo.
Oh my god, the wall hacks. He's coming in. There he is. He's coming to you.
I got a
He's
gun.
about to jump. Oh, sheesh.
He missed his turn right. And he killed me anyway.
Oh my god.
Rip.
Unlucky.
Recoil
We
is
got
hard.
unlucky. It's okay, Vox. You can just. I'll just select my character in Half-Life. Don't worry. I'll get us.
It's
to the butthole.
okay, it's okay.
Weapon recolor. This looks so cool. I kind of want it.
To be honest, in this game, the skins are pretty bad except for the legendary ones.
Yeah.
There's one called Core Fragment that looks kind of cool.
There's a few good epic ones, but mostly legendary ones. Because like none of the other skins actually change the way your game looks, like the way your character looks. But the legendary ones actually change your entire appearance.
Oh.
Yeah, like Raid Legendary, like she goes bald and has different clothes on, etc.
Oh, right, that. Oh, yeah.
Vox and Mysta training camp. We're gonna do a training camp, guys. You guys wanna go to Pred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've had enough.
I want to get to at least gold.
But you can, bro, Mysta, you can get to.
I would
gold
like to get a kill.
easily.
A kill, yeah.
That would be kind
This
of.
is the kill. You're gonna get a kill this round.
All right, let's
This is
go.
it. I believe in you.
How about I turn you guys?
Maybe it's time to break out my secret weapon.
How about I turn you guys into FPS demons? We get Pred in Apex, and then we go for Radiant and Valorant all together.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go Octane this time.
Oh,
This is the one I have a skin for, so we will win.
Someone in my chat said Mysta can easily go plat or even diamond.
That is cap.
You'd be surprised how easy it is to get plat in this game.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know
So we're
about that.
trying.
Yeah, worth trying. I play every day and sweat my ass off. and
No, it's actually not even that hard. Like, if you play every day, then you're gonna end up in Masters eventually, like Selen. If you play occasionally, you can get to plat easily. Like, it's
shit.
not that
okay. Bum, 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 bum. Where are we going? Are we gonna anal? Can we anal?
Yes,
I can
yeah,
get a skin.
finally.
You can finally experience this.
The time is now.
Anal? Alright. The time is now! Oh boy. There's some other people who are trying to DP.
You know, I got a train recently, and I went past this place while I went past this place with DP World. Scared me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just saw a big sign that said DP World and I went down.
I got one.
Two of them are cracked.
Nice, you're farming. Where are they running?
Thank you.
Where did they run away to? They're fighting up here in the front of the.
Oh, calm down, calm down.
Whoa, where is he? Where is he?
He's here.
How dare he? How dare you?
Oh my god.
This is fine.
I'm doing a little flank. Okay, I flanked nothing. That was perfect for me. What is he doing?
Yo, can I fucking...
What's happening, Mysta? Oh, the raid's running. Mysta is being a Legolas right now.
Oh my god, I can't aim. That's exactly what I mean.
I got you, I got you. You're
Dude.
local MILF hunter.
That was so bad.
With tag lolly.
I could not.
I don't want that.
Oh, more.
Oh, fuck me.
We're fine. We're just looting right now. No, they stole my bat in front of my face. Oh, careful, they have rampart walls. They do extra damage if they shoot through them.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, 5 blue on that ash.
There's an 8 cog there, I'm gonna want to grab it. I've got like no ammo.
What do you need?
Heavy.
I only got 19.
That's enough for me.
Here.
I'll make it
Follow
work.
mine.
Thank you.
In front of me. Oh god.
Oh fuck.
Holy fuck.
Damn it! Fuck!
We're fine.
Fuck!
Oh, it's the fucking wall, isn't it? Oh, they're pushing.
I have those
Oh,
shields.
both sides. I had to run. I'm dead anyway. Get him, Mysta.
Holy shit!
It is what it is.
Oh, you got one.
Oh, I did better than I normally do. That wasn't so bad.
They put the wall down and just did like a 5 million damage in like 5 seconds.
Thanks so much, Madeline. Thank you. Mwah, 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 mwah.
Well, at least we killed the local MILF hunter.
I'll stick with Octane for a little bit. That went slightly better than usual.
Oh, yeah.
With Octane, you're not so big, so you take less damage.
Yeah, that does help.
Even though you get damage reduction. Or,
Yeah, but with Gibby, you get damage reduction, but you're easier to hit. So in the long run, it doesn't really help. Unless you play your bubble perfectly.
I'm not a perfect bubble boy. That's okay.
It's okay, you're still learning.
Yeah.
How much of Valorant have you guys played?
A little bit. I've played quite a bit. I never got placed, but I played a lot of like just regular games.
Regulars, yeah.
Yeah.
I played like a couple. I'd say I played around 35 games of Valorant.
Okay, that's not a couple. That's more than a couple.
Yeah, but that gets you to like what, level 15 or some shit.
So you understand like this system of like standing still while shooting. It's so much different.
Oh yeah,
from
but I
Apex.
don't think I'm good at it.
Well, you know, I think a game like Valorant and CS:GO are like one of the hardest games to learn how to play because it's all about like timing with your movement. You're also aiming with your movement, not only with your aim.
Shut the fuck up!
Yeah.
David Raymond, welcome back.
35, I don't think it's a lot. For League, I have like 4,000 games, so I don't think 35 is a lot.
But you're probably
that's
really good in
Overwatch.
League.
No!
What was your highest rank?
I got to the Diamond 4 promos.
You're decent at League if you got Diamond 4. You're decent. You can't say you're
Promos.
bad.
Ooh.
I didn't
And
actually
we have a
get
chance
in.
to go butthole again.
We do.
Oh
And
yeah?
we take that chance every single time.
I am not the butthole jumper. I'm just not really all that talented at jumping buttholes. And you know what? That's okay.
RPR is a natural at jumping
Yeah, I'm a
buttholes.
natural.
He's a natural. He sees a butthole and he's
buttholing.
like in there before you even know what's going on. It's crazy.
Yeah. It comes with the job, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks, chat.
I did off his business expense too.
I have a really
that
shitty
one's
job, so
coming.
I'm good at this.
No one's coming in the butt.
Thankfully, we got the butthole to ourselves.
Nobody wants to come in. Alright. Alright, I'm feeling it.
Here's your bow.
Oh, thanks. Sure, I guess I've been doing okay with
Bow's not bad. My teammate's like known for being like a bow demon.
it. Bow demon.
Yeah, he's like really like honestly kind of concerning how good he is with that thing. Like no one should be that good with that thing.
I actually do like using the bow because I used to play this thing on console called Crisis. It's like a really old game.
Yeah,
Crisis.
I
Yeah.
put a lot
Yeah,
of Crisis as well.
3. Yeah, and there's like a thing on with a bow on there. It's really cool.
Yeah, I played a lot of I don't know if you ever played the first Crisis.
I don't think so.
And the first Crisis had this kind of like an open world aspect to it, where it's well not open world, but like the multiplayer is kind of like similar to Battlefield,
Oh yeah, yeah.
where you would have to capture points to like put the enemy team on 0, and then you would like once you put them on 0, you would be able to buy a nuke, and then you would physically nuke the enemy base to win.
Oh.
Damn.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. You would have to like take the nuke, go to the enemy base and start nuking them.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That game was ahead of its time.
Yeah. I don't really remember much from playing it other than it's kind of fun.
Oh yeah,
I
Crisis.
think you could go invisible and stuff, but I don't really remember.
Yeah,
I
you
think I
can
remember
go.
that, yeah.
It's speed, invisibility, strength, and then normal, I guess. So you could jump high, run fast, and then go invisible.
Meow. Meow.
That game was so fun. I feel like
Yes, I
games.
used to play Battlefield chat. I
games
was
back then,
Battlefield's quite good at actually.
back then games were just more fun. I feel like overall.
True.
Or maybe I'm just old now.
Talking about old, Vox is like 15 million.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
it's
an
crazy.
exaggeration.
It's crazy. Yeah, you never know. I lose track myself sometimes. That happens when you get to my age.
Oh yeah.
Guess I'm young compared to you.
But yeah, when I used to play Battlefield a lot on console, I used to do this thing called like a rendezvous. I don't know if chat knows what that is. They probably do.
A what?
But a rendezvous. So what you would do is you'd get into a jet, right? And you'd
Right.
go in with your RPG. And
Oh,
then,
and you would
yeah,
fly
you
out?
jump out of the jet and it would launch you up in the sky. And then you would shoot your RPG at like something else and then get back into the jet again.
Yeah, you
That
would like
sounds fun.
have a jet
Yeah.
fight. You jump out of the jet fight. You RPG the enemy jet and you jump back in. Yeah.
I actually still have clips of those. I wonder if I could post. Probably not. I don't know. But yeah, I still have clips of that stuff.
Yeah, I
Very
used
fun.
to play a lot of Battlefield. Like one of my first ever online game I played was a Battlefield 2,
Oh yeah.
and the heli flying and the plane flying in that game was so fun. And doing tricks and stuff. That was when I was young.
Why does Mysta sound like an angry cat?
Alright, let's slide down this hill.
I'm sliding.
Okay, sliding's way more fun.
We're also kind of faster when we're sliding.
Really?
This is such a big hill. Like it's just so massive.
Amogus.
Mm.
Ah! Yeah, try and intercept it. Yeah. Okay. Treasure pack here if you want it, PogChamp.
Don't need that
I-
shit.
I-
Someone's
I-
next to me right here.
Oh, yeah?
Can't use it right
I
now.
literally heard them over the wall.
Oh, I hear people in here.
Yeah, here.
Ah!
That guy's purple. The what's it? Bloodhound's purple as well. Vox has 3 people on him.
I'm fine. I'm not fine.
Watson cracked. Bloodhound cracked next to
I
you.
think I'm
Ah.
at a good distance.
No, no, no,
I did not. I'm
no,
dead.
fine.
We got this. We got this. Don't worry.
You got this, guys. I believe in you. Oh, is this a good idea?
Yeah, I knocked 2 of them.
Okay. I'm pushing.
We're fine. We're not fine.
No.
We're gonna be fine.
He's in the building. He went down. Oh, he's up on stairs. He's up. He's here on me.
Why is he finishing?
Blocking his path. Good fucking job, dude.
Why was he
Shit.
trying to finish you? Like, I'm still alive. Hello? Fight me. Here's a phoenix for you.
Is this death box? Too? Oh, thank you.
I'm a res the old man.
The old
Lord.
man.
Well, technically, wouldn't I be older than you, Vox? Lore-wise?
Possibly.
I think lore-wise, I'm technically older. Because I'm supposed to be a
How old are you?
Shinigami.
No, that would make sense. That would make sense.
So that means I'm literally like billions of years old.
Damn, yeah, you do have. Yeah, you do have the numbers on me. So really, it's just two old men,
And a
two old
zoomer.
men.
Yeah, I'm a zoomer.
Yeah. Vox, Mysta is our zoomer.
Yeah, I'm a zoomer.
Are you actually?
Yes, I am 18.
You didn't say that out loud. There's
Truthfully,
a communication error.
A child.
Yes.
Yeah.
No
I
matter
am.
what my chat says, I am 18.
Right. I am 16 mentally.
Oh yeah? Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, 16. Physically, it's a different story, but
That makes
You know.
sense.
Alright, well.
there's 3 ages that go around. You know what I mean? Like mentally, I'm 16. Physically, 25, and lore-wise, I'm prehistoric. But I identify as 16 mentally, so
Oh yeah, okay.
I think I'm a zoomer.
That's fair enough.
They always told me you can be whatever you want to be, and I want to be young.
Oh yeah, Vox said that in the song actually.
Mm.
Can be anyone you want.
Vox, there's good
You
armors
really
over
can.
there you didn't pick up.
There's a what?
There's a good purple armor up there you didn't pick up.
Oh,
Gonna go back, I'm gonna get it.
You're shitting me.
Iron Thing for 6 months.
Don't
Welcome
be
back.
afraid and live
You're
your
shitting
life.
me, brother. Let's go get it.
The world is full of hope.
Pred, shut the fuck up.
What you wanna do? Come on, da-da-da-be-da-do.
Okay, but
Ooh.
realistically, is 25 really that old? Like, realistically, it's not, right? I'm pretty young.
No, it's very young. You're very young.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm
Very
peaking my
old,
youth.
young.
Yay, thank you.
I'm at a
Hope
peak.
in that. I haven't found any more arrows. That's the problem with this. I never see arrows anywhere when I have the bow.
We can craft some arrows.
You can craft arrows.
Yeah, you can craft ammo.
It's go time.
Okay,
Also-
Mysta, come here. Drop one of your guns, so like you only carry your bow, and then it costs only 10 to craft arrows, and crafts a stack per 10 crafting materials. Just make sure you
Okay,
drop your
so
other gun, so you don't craft
Drop my
useless
gun
ammo.
and then I.
Craft ammo, yeah. It should be on the left side. Yeah. And then you craft.
Ha! And then I grab my gun back.
Yeah, and then you got and then you have ammo.
See, I see.
I have a bad battery here, by the way.
I have 6. I'm good.
So if I drop a,
I guess I'll keep it.
I drop like that. Grab this. Grab that.
Nice. We're juiced. Let's go. Let's go
All
to
right,
the
absolutely stocked. Let's
Yeah,
go.
fine, yeah. I'm hogging IRL, bro. Let's go.
Zone. Let's go.
Let's go faster.
We got Legolas. We got a demon. And then we have a human. Me. Hello.
I swear I
Holy
just had
shit.
Mario.
Oh, my family, please. Hey,
Bonk.
You have
Hey, man,
jetpacks,
jetpack.
so you when you're doing that, Mister,
oh.
you can activate your jetpack and like fly.
Doggies.
oh, really? What?
You can like
actually
cancel it like mid flight.
Down shield. Ooh. That is actually pretty sick, mate.
We have a drop here. We want it. We want to drop.
Okay.
It's ours.
Okay.
It's birthright.
So much open land. Ready, set,
Yeah, this map is big. But we're fine. There's a lot of natural cover in this map.
I'm vibing, chat.
A
Oh,
vault.
a vault. I don't know how to use that.
Vault.
It's an SMG, so
Should I take it?
if you want it,
I could maybe swap it for my hemlock.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
Just an SMG, point and left click.
Shield.
Sounds good to me.
Anything I can start with power. Okay.
Alright, let's
Alright.
find
Why does it feel like there's never anyone like?
because this map is huge. Like actually gigantic.
Cute noise. Thank.
I just killed a dragon, by the way.
360. Thank you for 360k. Oh.
Killed a dragoon actually.
Oh, well done, mister.
Hey. Thank.
Guys like spiders?
Oh my
No,
goodness.
I hate spiders.
Same. These are freaky. They're actually made them pretty creepy in this game.
Oh, they shoot you.
weird.
They shoot you. Disgusting.
Yeah, it's spider and shit at you. But they give good loot, so.
Tried to trick shot that motherfucker. I
Rat.
missed.
Nice. Alright, I heard some people fighting. We can
Thanks,
maybe look
chat.
at it.
Where should we go? I'll follow you. You lead
Think
the way,
that-
master.
They're right in front of us. I think, at least.
Okay.
Some more ammo real quick. They should be in the storm. We can just wait for them here.
Okay.
Like I think they're at these houses somewhere. Oh no, they're down here, to the right. Look at that posting. Dead. That
Damn, this thing.
Sears very low. Nice. Last guy's outside the triple take, Andy. Purple. Oh, he's hurting me. I cracked him. He's behind the building. Oh, he teleported away.
Is there anyone in this house still?
No, there wasn't. No.
Well, there's one person who's knocked. I got him.
Oh, he teleported into a different team here. It's actually a different team on this, below this building, and in the building. They killed him. They killed the solo. So this is like a duo or a trio in here.
Hey, he's right there.
We didn't kill these guys.
Trio.
We're better
It's
than
like
them.
there on the right.
Should we push?
Is it a caustic? Yeah, it is.
He's charging.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's get on the
Mad
roof.
Magni. Oh, under.
Red shield.
Red shield. Broke. Knocked. I'm so low.
Caustic almost cracked.
Oh my god.
Red shield here.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Good job, guys.
Fucking name.
We are freaking
That
it,
was
as
bad.
Rosamy would say.
Sorry, chat. That was bad.
Someone pick up the red armor. There you
Okay,
go.
got it.
Oh, gold triple take here.
I don't need it.
Oh, triple save.
A lot of ammo.
Oh.
Alright, last team, let's go. We gotta go zone. Come with me,
Okay,
with me,
okay.
with me.
I could ult, but or is it too
fine.
risky? Because then we.
Yeah, we might die to storm.
Oh, this doesn't have a scope. Shit.
Vox, you should maybe drop yourself a pad and fly.
Yeah.
And get ahead. And
Oh,
die
what?
to storm. and we won.
All right then.
Yo,
in a row.
so easy.
2 in a row.
Oh my god, we clutched that out. That was so close. That was so close. I love that last fight, man. That was insane.
That
Holy
last
shit,
fight,
last
Vox,
fight.
you carried the last fight. That was crazy.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, of course.
As soon
I
as you
know.
dropped that pad, he was gone.
As soon as you-
At the lobby.
pad, actually, you know, he was the pad. I just grabbed him and broke his neck on the floor. It was really brutal, like insane.
Oh my god.
That was a quiet game.
That was.
It was a peaceful game.
But that's 2 in a row, right?
Was it?
I think
Yeah.
it might have been.
Was it
Who
really?
said we can't do it? Who said we can't do it? We got 2 wins in a row.
Legacy continues. Easy. Nice. I get so much XP. Holy shit.
Chat, are you guys counting? Was that 2 in a row?
It might have been.
I'm sure Chad will know us. Will let us know. Yeah, it was
Chat
2 in a
more
row.
like Chad.
Chad. I don't call my Chad Chad. They're definitely not Chad.
Thank you for the super hippie.
They are bullies though.
I'm gonna stick with Octane. I think I've been enjoying him.
Yeah. Small hitbox. Nice. I think I'm put on Olympus now. Fuck you, Zuka. Can we do 3 in a row? Is this possible? Are we gonna
I
do
don't know.
a hat trick?
A hat trick. Oh, you got a rat on your hand.
A rat on my head? Oh, I think I don't know what the lore is behind Ash and her rat, but for some reason she has a rat. She's she's like a real person stuck in like a cyborg's body or a robot's body.
I'm the jump master.
Kind of hot.
Yeah, she is kind of hot.
No,
but I was
not.
gonna say that when she came out. First thing I said is she's hot, and everyone looked at me wrong. But she is kind of hot. Like,
She is, isn't she?
Yeah, I don't want her to kick my fucking teeth in.
okay, maybe not. That. I'm not a name.
I'm not either.
Oh,
Oh, M for Mysta.
Chat. What do you call those characters that are robot human personalities, like
Eyeball?
humans with robot bodies, completely robot bodies? No, it's
think
not
it's called
Cyborg. Simulacrum.
Oh, don't talk to me about cyborgs right now.
Yeah, no, because cyborgs are also like they're half human, half robot. Like they're like kind of like they have more human parts. This is like just the brain. I feel like, or it's like a personality uploaded or whatever.
Android.
No, it's simulacrum actually.
Simulacrum.
A lot of words.
I thought that was a game.
I don't know. Oh, maybe it's a game.
Alright. No loot. Pog.
What happened with Fulgur and you playing Smash, Vox?
Oh, I got my ass kicked.
Oh, really?
How?
Yeah, yeah.
Why'd you
I don't
let
want
him
to talk about it.
Wait, is he really good at Smash? I didn't know
Yeah, apparently he like no-lifed it for 3 years, which is a lot more than I played of it, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
he never said that, like, ever. What?
Yeah,
Little
like,
rat.
he played it a lot, and I saw him stream it, and then he beat Cat Gaming, and I was like, all right, this will probably be like kind of hard, and then I just had no shot. It was embarrassing. It was horrible. I hated every minute of it.
God.
He was hiding it on purpose. He wasn't telling you on purpose.
Maybe, yeah. Oh.
Wait, I can use a replica, right? Is that right?
Dead. Fucking Fulgur. He's never gonna let you hear the end of that. You know that. Like now you fucked up.
Don't say that to me. Don't say that to me. I've played two competitive games in a row on stream, both of which I'm getting my ass handed to me, and I don't need that.
It's okay. You're doing great in Apex.
Thank you.
Now I have light ammo? Are you fucking kidding me?
To be fair, if I played that game, I'd probably get absolutely demolished. I've never played a Smash game in my life.
Yeah, I know it's very tilting.
That's okay. It's okay. If he speaks up on Twitter, I got your back. I'll find with you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Vox is
do we want
better
him?
at FNAF. Okay.
I am
Well,
much better. Okay, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
I'm much better.
he
at
has that. He has that.
I'll cling to my value as a
Hello,
FNAF
Pickles.
gamer as long as I live.
FNAF gamer. Yes, I'm a FNAF pro player. Yes.
I've never played a FNAF
Hey,
game.
the later games like the custom knives, those are pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
I've actually never in my life played a FNAF, but I'm interested in the possibility.
They are quite enjoyable once you get past the first one is genuinely kind of spooky, and then once you get through that, you've got an interest, and then it doesn't let you go.
So there's like an actual story behind it. It's not just a horror game that scares
This is a pretty big story. Oh, let me tell you.
Oh god, I've seen a lot of MatPat videos on FNAF lore theories. And
All I
stuff.
know is I watched Vienna do it, and I think she played the first one, and there was this guy talking on the phone and explaining like what you gotta do for the job, and then one day he just no longer called the phone anymore.
Yeah, it's like nights 1 through 3. He's like, things are gonna start to get real, and then in night 4, you hear someone like bust into his house, and in night 5, like just fucking Freddy himself calls you and like breathes down the mic, and then you're in for it.
Yeah, sounds pretty scary.
I love breathing. I mean breeding. I mean breathing.
What? We understood it the first time, Mister. You didn't have to elaborate. You just made it weird by just repeating it. We were fine. I mean, I'll have to give it a shot at the FNAF series. FNAF. Should I play them in chronological order?
Yeah, definitely. They definitely get sort of harder as they go. So I'd say the first one, honestly, overall is not really that hard. I think overall probably FNAF 4 is the easiest, but it's also a pretty good one. It's a lot of fun, that one.
And you get a lot of lore by playing them, or is lore something
you get a fair bit. Like in FNAF 6, like the ending is very straightforward as opposed to the other games. Like you get a really nice sort of ending that genuinely just tells you what's happening rather than the rest of the games where you kind of have to figure it out.
Interesting. We'll finish God of War. Relax. One day.
God of War is very good.
One
I like
day,
God of War a lot.
We're almost finished, okay? I got busy with playing Apex because there's tournaments, but now they canceled our tournaments for
Well, that sounds
EU
fun.
because of Ukraine bullshit.
Mm.
So now I guess we gotta finish God of War.
Alright, where are the people at?
I hear them in front of us, I think.
Where are the people?
I think they just Valkulted. Oh no, on my left. Right here. How are you so prepared for me?
Oh, fuck! Wait.
Oh no.
Wait a second.
It's okay, I killed the guy.
Oh my fucking god, I was one shot.
Why is it? There's a guy hiding behind us.
Behind.
Oh
God!
no. Okay, that's unfortunate. How was there a guy behind us hiding the entire time?
Literally one shot me. I don't
no.
believe this.
I was unlucky. Mysta came around the corner and walked into an arc star.
I know. Oh god. The range is so big on those.
How did we not find anyone for so long?
I know.
That was like forever.
Okay, no matter how bad these games go, I just saw someone in my chat talking about like I just keep tabbing back into my chat and they're talking about Freddy Fazbear with a Mozam. That's a pretty nice idea.
Holy shit.
Keeps giving me shit for Fuse. I don't play this character. I don't have him.
Fuse is pretty bad, not gonna lie. It's good that you don't play him.
Thanks, chat. You can take me to my
Freddy with a Mozam. Freddy with a Mozam, dude.
Go
I think Vienna would
Freddy
like
could
him.
definitely crank 90s.
Doesn't Vienna
so high right now? I don't know why. Maybe I need to like run OBS in admin mode. I think it's because I didn't
Maybe,
this
yeah.
time.
Probably. Doesn't Vienna have a thing for Freddy?
For Glamrock? Yeah, definitely.
Because, chat, I'm looking, my CPU usage right now is like 80%.
Yeah, that's
I know I'm
fucking a lot.
streaming, but it's like, holy shit.
Is it supposed to be 80, chat? I don't think so.
Wait, could you hear me? What?
Yeah.
Huh? Ow, wait, I
Yeah.
was abusing myself.
Was not you not? No.
What? Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Fine.
I was like talking over you guys because I thought I was muted.
No, you weren't. It's okay.
we don't
Shit.
care. Ah,
If you were talking over us,
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
it's cute seeing Mysta have this new streamer problems when you forget to mute and then you like embarrassed because you spoke in front of everyone. Hey,
Aw.
no, you get used to it. Don't worry.
Currently,
I've done that.
currently 100% utilization on the CPU.
I've done that like 200 times at least.
Ooh, let's go.
And I don't think your CPU is supposed to be maxed out while streaming. Huh?
Yeah, I know. It normally isn't. I really don't know what's going on.
Do you do CPU streams or GPU streams?
Oh, I do GPU. GPU.
So why is your CPU maxing?
I know, and I don't even have a bad CPU either. Really odd. I think I just have like some sort of setting off right now, maybe. I really don't know. Maybe there's like an update I'm missing. Oh, actually,
Yeah, I don't know why that would happen.
there was a team that landed here with us.
Thoughts on Shy Lily? What? No thoughts at all.
Alright.
People on me. 3 people on me. I'm dead. I just walked into him. No, my bad. I didn't think he trampled on me. It's really bad though. Oh god. Oh, he's
My
so
time to
bad.
shine was really bad.
No, he's trying to finish me. He can't finish me.
On the roof.
Oh, no,
There's
it's
3 of
you.
them.
Up front.
Crack one. Knocked one.
Oh, nice, mister.
Crack another.
No,
Knocked another.
what were you crazy with it?
Oh shit. Whoops.
Fuck!
It's a 1v1. You could pop cells. You should maybe jump down here and like bait res me, like press E on me, but don't actually res me.
I'm in the corner. I'm good. I'm Gucci.
He's pushing.
Fuck.
It's fine, it's fine.
Oh
You got-
fuck. I think I'm dead.
No. Behind you?
Oh my god. I got juked. No.
Nice try.
Ah.
Nice try. That was my bad.
How many more games do you guys want to do?
However much you want.
Yeah, how long are you planning to stream, Vox?
I don't know. I'm feeling a little tired, so I might not do it for too much longer.
We could hit the 3-hour mark. We're like 15 minutes away.
That sounds good. Yeah, let's go for 3 hours.
Couple more games.
All right. Let's do it.
You knocked 2 people, Mysta, with a wingman, though?
Yeah.
You say you're not good with it?
I choked on the last one, though.
Yeah, I mean, you still knocked 2 people by yourself. What do you mean?
Well, perfect. It's not.
You're not supposed to 1v3 everyone when you have the wingman in your hands.
To be fair, they did keep peeking the same angle.
That's how it is. Think I better, kids. Mysta, you need to learn how to give yourself credit. I feel like you don't know how to give yourself credit.
Yeah, I know.
You'll kill 3 squads and be like, but I didn't kill the 4th squad. Like, you just killed 2 motherfuckers. Like, yeah, you died to the last one, but you killed 2. It's not like you didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to take compliments because I never got them before until I started streaming.
Well, it's not even compliments. It's just like you don't even like give yourself credit.
All right, look, we're going right here.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
I'm ready. I'm fucking ready. Let's go! I'm going in.
Oh my god, there's a lot of people over there.
That's fine.
No, we're fine here, I believe.
We're fine, we're fine. I'm gonna go to this house here.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, actually, I'll go here.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought the giant bubble meant that you couldn't drop here.
Oh, no, it's kind of
Like you had to walk in from outside or something. But
the lore behind this, I guess, is that it's like, so you know, Wraith, she has the dimensional like ability where she like enters another dimension and creates portal. And this is island or whatever was like using her for research, and she escaped from it. And then they used her for research, and they created these big like portals that portal you through the map right here. But this one exploded or whatever and like imploded here, and then you can just like get sucked through it.
Apex lore.
There's actually a lot of Apex lore. I'm pretty sure they're making like an animated series like Arcane.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Who has the fattest cock?
I think Gibraltar.
Yeah.
Gibraltar is also gay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's kind of pop champ.
Got a boyfriend.
That is wow. With those cheeks, I think he.
Love to see it.
Let's see. Take that. Take that.
The lore of this game is actually pretty interesting. Like, I don't really usually follow lore, but there's a lot of cool things in this game.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, I normally don't follow lore for games, but
Yeah,
I do find it interesting every now and then. Maybe I should.
There's a lot of purple armors here. Come over here, Vox. Get yourself one of these.
Ah, yes.
There's
Here I
one right
come.
here.
Here I come. Up.
There's this.
I already got one of them.
Mirage X Gibby.
No, I don't think Mirage. No.
Okay, my just saying random shit. Okay.
I don't think Gibby's boyfriend is known.
Okay.
Mysterious.
Mysta Rias.
Do you know that
sheesh.
Octane is actually a YouTuber, like a real life YouTuber, that did speedruns on Titanfall, and he did this one thing called nade boosting, where he would throw a nade and boost himself and propel himself forward to get the world record in beating a stage, and his IGN was Octane, and they made a character after him and made his legs like metal, like he doesn't have legs because of the nade boosting. And
That
if you
is
look
so fucking cool.
That
Holy
is
shit.
really cool. What?
if you look at him right here, at the Octane's body right here, Vox,
Yeah.
he has a little GoPro on his little on his
Oh.
body. Maybe not on this skin, but on one of the skins he has a GoPro, Which is
That's
like,
so
because
cool.
he's
Oh my
in the lore of Apex, he's also a YouTuber. That's why he's live streaming constantly. He's a streamer.
There's a person here.
Yeah.
I cracked one. Oh shit! I need a shield.
Okay, I got cracked. I'm talking about it. There is 3 dudes. Put a pad down here, Vox. Let's go up.
Yeah.
Okay, so... Oh, one more case. 1 HP, here. I got him. There's another team, so be careful. There's another team right there.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, wait, Vox, I'm gonna give you...
I'm good. Oh, my fucking god.
I'm gonna port you, We're gonna be good. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be okay.
There's one on my face.
Take the port,
He's nutting around in my face.
We're good, we're good.
I'm good.
Oh my god.
Oh, we're not good, we're not good. Mysta, help.
No! What the fuck? I thought I was holding the door.
No, I missed everything.
Nah!
Oh,
No.
Oh man.
my bad.
Fuck.
I'd say 1 or 2 more, guys.
Alright.
Yeah.
0 damage dealt. Let's go.
Holy shit. I hit like every shot with the bow and then I switched to a fucking gun and I missed everything.
That's unfortunate.
That is
Oh, yeah.
so sad.
I was too busy rambling about the Octane, dude.
Fuck.
But it is cool that Octane, that they made like a tribute to like their speedrunner in the game. I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Holy shit. Oh, maybe you'll be in the game someday.
Cop, they don't like me. I don't even get into
involved.
playtest. They haven't even invited me to a single playtest, so it's just not happening.
What even is there to playtest?
New seasons, there are like always 3 seasons ahead.
What?
Yeah. They got 3 seasons made ahead, and then you can playtest like the future seasons.
Sheesh. That must be hard to work on.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Apex came out of nowhere. There was no announcement. There was nothing about
Yeah.
Apex ever. They just one day were like, here's our game, and just released it. But they worked on it for years, you know, and they had a lot of
Yeah.
like planned out.
Maybe Valkyrie.
Valk has a skin where she wears a helmet, and the helmet is
yeah?
from her dad that like passed away, and her dad is actually one of the bosses, like one of the enemy bosses you fight in Titanfall 2.
What?
Damn.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, because that's like a linked universe, right?
Yeah, Titanfall is the same universe.
Where should we go? We go here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah, her dad is called Viper, or was called Viper. Ash is also a boss, yeah. And wasn't Ash also the announcer of like when they introduced Arena? Ash was the announcer for Arenas, but now she's a character. There's a lot. There's like 2 or 3 teams here. I'm gonna land here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fine. This is fine.
Ash is still the announcer. Oh shit. How's she playing and announcing?
Multitasking.
Here. Revenant.
I don't have any bullets really, I only have 20.
Only have an army. This guy's very low on the door.
He's low, he's 41.
He should be like 10 health.
I have 10 bullets left.
There's heavy right here.
And I missed every single one of them. Okay. I really need to
Alright, I
grab
don't know
some
where he
ammo.
went. I have no idea where the guy went. Did we kill him?
No,
He
he
didn't,
dropped
right?
down.
Purple here?
Ooh, thank you.
Alright, he's gone. Let's actually go to the other guys that are shooting. Another purple here, Mysta.
Okay, come. Where is that? Below?
Wait, I hear him. He's here.
Come
On the
see
bridge.
guys. Every single shot.
On my door. Okay, this Revenant is playing games. Where is he? Oh, you got him? Nice.
Alright, well.
Okay, the other team is there. Well, that's a
Should we
crypto
head
drone.
to them?
What's going on with my business?
Nice. Right here in front of us. Gold armor in one.
Coming. Charging.
I almost cracked the gold armor on the crypto. On the roof on the left. Okay, we're in a bad spot. We should pull back up a little bit.
Cracked
was
one
that?
inside the building.
Ooh, I'm surprised I lived. Holy shit.
Oh, shit. Woo! Oh
They're
my
pushing?
god.
They're pushing hard.
I'm shooting.
They're pushing the building. Oh, they're on me. They're on me. Oh, they're on me. One dead.
Yeah.
Nice.
Up,
Get
one
up.
behind me. Right here.
I'm gonna pop a battery box behind you.
On box. You got this box. You got this. Oh!
He's flushed.
I do not have this.
You have it.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Hey,
Holy
shit. Oh my god.
I like go up here like this. Hey.
Oh. Okay, let me help you.
What's up, buddy?
That was good
Holy
cover, Mysta.
shit.
You actually saved my ass. I had to be able to push me so hard.
I like the
I
Elsa.
got no ammo.
You guys have any energy ammo?
I got
Nope.
no ammo.
Alright.
Anything.
I have
Yeah,
literally
I
one
only have
bullet.
shotgun ammo.
Yeah, me too. I have an empty wingman and a lot of shotgun ammo for my Eva.
Oh man.
We can craft ammo, I guess. If we don't find any.
Nah, it's alright. I switched to Prowler.
There's a lime mag right here. There's a lot of light ammo right here.
Landing.
There's a 301. I can't. What am I doing?
Give this a try. Ooh, Mister, do you need a shotgun bolt?
No.
Okay.
I have a Mozambique. Oh wait, no. Can it attach on that?
Yeah, there's.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Oh no,
Mozambique is a-
I literally just used my crafting shit. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay.
Mozambique is a pistol shotgun.
Pistol shot.
Yeah, it's actually not bad. It does like 45 to the body. And it shoots pretty fast. When you have like a purple bolt on it, it shoots like really fast.
Ah. Wait, so what do the bolts do? They just increase fire rate?
Yeah, increase fire rate.
Oh, okay.
Like the stock on rifles that you can get, that increases your reload time and your pull-out time. The barrel reduces recoil.
Oh yeah, I got that pull-out game already though.
Yeah, you really
Yeah.
do need to have low pull-out time, so that's good.
My bad. Worded that wrong.
2 seconds to pull out.
It's funny.
Ooh, we got a car here, guys. Come on, let's ride.
Alright, Vox is
Right.
driving.
Cool,
The chauffeur.
Maybe I should try this. No, that's not it. Okay, I'm coming.
Up in, Mister. We gotta escape the ring.
I'm coming! Oh! Oh, what the fuck? Holy shit!
Alright. One bad thing about the car, if someone sticks an arc star to it, we're dead.
Oh, great.
We can always just hop out, surely.
Yeah, depends. Depends how much cover we have.
Alright. Oh god, I'm scared.
This is fine.
I'm sure no one's gonna kill us. No one wants to kill us anyway. We're absolutely fine.
Driving the Luca. It's okay.
Nothing's gonna happen.
We honk and it just goes bonk.
There's an airdrop over here. If we go up the hill.
Whee! Oh, let's try
Right
this.
here, at the peak of this hill, just slam left click. Like right here.
All right.
Oh, do we not have boost?
I do. It's shift. Hold on. I can do it.
Oh, it's shift. Okay.
Let's go back to the hill. I want to do this. This will be fun.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's do this. All right.
Okay, here we go.
Ready.
Oh
Oh, yay!
I think they're fighting right here. Oh, around there.
Get in. Can we run people over in this, or is it not?
No, there's no damage. Well, you can push them around, but there's no damage.
Shit.
I just saw them on the left here. I believe they're in here. I'm gonna jump out.
Yeah, jump out.
Yeah, right here. One's knocked already. Zipping. Meatball zipping.
Yeah.
Very low.
Knocked
Nice.
one.
Oh, behind us in the building.
Behind.
He's alone. We should kill him.
Yeah, push.
Crack.
He just went up in the air.
Fly on him.
Yeah.
I'm shielding.
You should be able to kill him.
Can this guy die?
I got him. Okay, the other two are here. Let's go kill them. They rezzed the Gibraltar. Nice one. Blow down. Last guy, I believe.
Bloodhound's ulting.
He's running away. On the middle part here. He dropped down. Right here. I did nothing to him. That's a new team shooting on us from the right.
Yeah, new team.
Careful, Vox. He's right above you. There's blood on.
Holy shit.
Oh, he rezzed the Valkyrie.
He's super low. Super
Holy
low.
fuck! They
Uh-oh.
pushed me. Okay. There's two in there.
Oh, there's three. Oh, there's not good.
Coming.
We gotta go back, Vox.
You guys.
Leave me. Oh!
Oh, no, they popped the whole finisher on you? That's disrespectful.
It's okay, you got this.
I'm good.
They can't be third-partying and popping finishers. We gotta teach them a lesson now. Close.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
Oh, no.
We're fine. Stay inside. Hold your shield. No way you're doing this. No way he popped the whole battery. I whiffed so hard.
Holy shit. Rip.
Oh, nice shot.
I can't believe I didn't get to kill that bloodhound. That's okay.
Was that the last one then?
Unless
close.
you guys want to do like a couple more, I don't mind.
Up to you.
Holy
I don't mind
shit.
either.
I leveled up.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty tired, but I don't wanna call it quits if people are having fun.
Oh no, we can't. We have been
if
going
you're
for
tired-
3 hours.
I'm tired of it. We can
Yeah.
call
Right.
it.
Okay, yeah. I reckon I might call it there.
Yeah.
Alright. It's all good.
Yay.
That was fun.
All right, Apex. Thank you
Yeah, that
guys
was
for
fun. I
thank you
learned
guys for inviting me to this collab. It was a lot of fun.
Sorry that we had so many cheaters in our games, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Everybody's aimbotting. It's ridiculous.
Oh, I just want to stream snipe, stream snipe the dog and the devil. Fucking cheaters.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we play Valorant next time, we might not get as many cheaters, you know.
Yeah, you never
It's
know.
less
You never
people in the
know.
lobby.
That's more.
You think there's more? But there's less people in the
Yeah.
lobby, so like there can only be 5
Yeah.
cheaters. Here we had like 57 cheaters every game.
Literally. It's unbelievable.
It's
What are they
unbelievable.
doing to these servers? It's terrible.
Yeah,
Are we the only honest players in a game
I
full of
think
cheaters?
we are. It's actually
Oh my
incredible.
god. Alright, I'll be reading some super chats now. Thanks,
Alright.
guys.
Yeah, thank you for
me
playing,
too,
guys.
Me too.
See you
Alright,
guys.
I'll head off. I'll see you guys in a bit. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Alright, chat. Hope you guys enjoyed the collab with the boys. I had fun. It was fun. Yeah, I'm gonna be done for the day because it's already 5 p.m. I'm gonna go work out after this. So I'm gonna look for someone to raid. You know what? Let's raid Giddy. Fuck it. Alright. I wanna thank you guys for coming to the collab. Make sure you join the Discord if you want to make friends, and follow Twitter if you want to follow my Twitter. We're gonna raid Giri. She's a cooking VTuber, and her setup is absolutely insane. She basically cooks while being green screened, and I don't know how she does it. It's actually crazy. It's actually crazy. So make sure you follow her and say hi. Thank you guys for stopping by. We're gonna be probably back tomorrow. What do we say? Just send hearts. Send hearts for the host. All right, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for coming. See you guys tomorrow. And I don't know what we're gonna do tomorrow, but we're gonna do something. All right, bye bye. Thank you.